Welcome to the Fantasy Fangirls podcast, where two sisters dive deep into beloved fantasy lore, characters, themes, theories, and more.
I'm Lexi, older sister and fantasy lore nerd.
And I'm Nicole, younger sister and romantic at heart.
And today is episode 4 as we deep dive Quicksilver by Callie Hart, covering chapters 26 through 37. As always, please listen closely to our spoiler warning. Every episode has spoilers for all of Quicksilver. Yes, that includes the end, and may reference any of the bonus chapters.
So, if you do not know the true meaning of O'Shaleth, yes, we are already to that chapter, then please go finish the book. We will be here when you're done.
Next, we have Fantasy Fangirls, are adults who say adult things about adult books. In other words, friends, this podcast is rated R.
We get not one, but 2 sex scenes this stretch of chapters, and one of them includes nom 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 nom. So please be mindful of those little listening ears.
First thing I think of there is the dragon.
Om nom shakrayan.
Om nom 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 nom.
Om nom shakrayan.
Additionally, we are so excited to see what upcoming live events. We will be at Romantasy BookCon in Orlando, Florida this weekend, October 23rd through 25th. Only a few more days until we interview Rebecca Yarros at Disney World. I am so excited. I'm just freaking out.
Then we are thrilled to be hosting a Brimstone release party and doing a live Fantasy Fangirls Q&A in partnership with Tattered Cover Bookstore and Book and Gather on November 17th in Denver, Colorado.
And on March 6th through 8th in Dallas, Texas, we will be podcast partners at Dreamers and Readers Festival.
Check out our website or the links below for more information to all of these events, including a promo code for Dreamers and Readers. In addition, we are so excited to say welcome to the Fantasy Fan Fellas under the Fantasy Fangirls Media Network.
Our very own executive producer Hayden and Book Talk star Stephen Walker are launching a new podcast where every week they will dive deep into Brandon Sanderson's Mistborn.
But here is the twist. Hayden is an expert in Sanderson's Cosmere and has already read the Mistborn series.
But Stephen has not, so each episode will only include spoilers up to the chapters covered, as Hayden takes Stephen through his first time reading Mistborn.
First episodes, 3 episodes of Fantasy Fanfellas will release on Wednesday, November 5th.
Last thing before we jump into Quicksilver episode 4, if you love Fantasy Fangirls and want more events, more content, more community, and so much more all around, please check out Fantasy Fan Club.
We have 3 membership tiers that you can join. Number 1, the Hive Mind, which includes access to our Boppin' Discord, live Q&As from Lexi and I, book clubs often featuring the authors themselves for a live Q&A, community events, promo codes for live events, plus 20% off and access to exclusive FFG merch. That is for $6 a month. Or you can join the Spice Watchers, which includes everything from the Hive Mind, plus early access to ad-free episodes, our full episode outlines, and special voting privileges. That is for $10 a month. And then we have our Feral Fans, which includes everything from the previous 2 tiers, plus behind-the-scenes content, a welcome gift, giveaways, private Discord channel called The Dining Room, and your name shouted out on the podcast. That is for $25 a month.
Join the party at fantasyfangirls.com/fan club. The link is also in the show notes. And really and truly, thank you so much for supporting us as we've turned this podcast, this media network, into a dream come true. It is literally all because of you, and we appreciate you so, so much.
And now it is time to make a god sword.
To start off every episode, Nicole does us the honor of summarizing this stretch of chapters. So gather round as we sing Loris Ballad to discuss what happens in chapters 26 through 37 of Quicksilver.
Chapter 26. Waking up to the sound of raw fear, Saris runs to Kingfisher so near. Kingfisher is fighting the Quicksilver madness in stride, telling Saris to leave his bedside. She doesn't agree with that shit at all, so she climbs in his bed before he can call on the oath that is. But no, Fisher. If you do that again, there will be a permanent fissure. To distract him from the pain that he's in, she tells him a story of her life that has been. Her mother's death, death, their family's plight. But now in Fisher's arms, the future's looking bright. Chapter 27. Early the next morning, Saris wakes up to find Kingfisher's harness pressed against her behind. Things heat up despite last night, and Saris even convinces Fisher to take a bite. Saris joins him for breakfast, butt naked, but she reaches out a hand to find her tattoos not faded. But that's not the only new thing this morning so lit. He can talk in her head. What the shit? He tells her the facts. She can accept them or lack. But if she waits too long, there are no tattoo take-backs. Chapter 28. Back in the forge and nothing is grasping. Carrion questions if she's just tried asking. With the thought in her head, Saris gives the question a shot. She has nothing to lose. Those other tests did diddly squat. The Quicksilver agrees to come out of the stone and be forged anew to a worthy baritone. Chapter 29. The forge is hotter than the deep pits of hell as Saris pounds away like she's ringing a war bell. Lorith swindles Carrion out of his chits for fun, but Saris needs him for a wolf head well done. Hours passed and Saris works hard. She finishes the sword for our favorite bard. Lorith lays one finger directly on the blade, and that's all it took for the blood price to be paid. With only one part left, Lorith seals his fate. He opens his mouth to sing the Ballad of Adena Gate. Chapter 30. After a bath, it's time to go to bed, but Saris has plans with the Quicksilver instead. She wants to bargain everything she can, but sadly for Fisher, he's stuck as a madman. It gave him his life, and they can't take it back, or Saris will lose her favorite snack. Something is wrong. The horde of feeders is here. They're just off the banks for the icy frontier. Saris won't stay behind while the Fae fight for their lives, so Kingfisher gives her Solace so she can survive. Chapter 31. Lightning strikes across the sky as the plans of the Darn go awry. The feeders are making it past on the ice. Looks like someone rolled a nat 1 on their dice. The ice may break, but it's not long enough. As the first vampires rise from the water, things start to get rough. Ren and Saris hold their ground while Solace grants magic for each new round. Suddenly light flashes the night into day. Lorith is here to cut down his prey. But it's not that easy. Our crew is suddenly stuck because Everlane is on the other side of the Darn. Fuck! Chapter 32. Our dearest Lane has been bitten, you see, and with no way to get her, Malcolm's side is all glee. And they argue and fight and get to nowhere. Maybe it's time to send up a prayer. Taladeus is here and he brings bad news. Fisher has to pick between two of his crew. Between his Osha and his sister, the choice is too hard. Malcolm could use a kick in the nards. Chapter 30. Tensions are high and no one is speaking. Can someone please tell Saris why they're all freaking? Malcolm is different. He's not like the rest. One bite from him and you're part of the nest. But enough of that for now. Danya is on a mission. To get the sword back she lost to the musician. The magic is pissed. How dare she touch it? Avisith took off her hand. At least it wasn't her tit. Before the healers, there's one more task to do. To honor a warrior with blood and thanks. Woohoo! After 33 chapters, he's finally said her name. Bow down, Kingfisher, to the great Saris Fane. Chapter 34. To the dining room we go, but Danya's throwing shade. That seat is for the house lady, and Saris is less than a maid. Everyone agrees she's in the correct spot, so get over yourself, Danya, and pop a squat. To the forge again we go for another try. This time it wants a secret that will make us all cry. She doesn't want to go home, Saris tells the ring, and it looks like that was just enough to make the relic bling. Tylena visits the crew as they work, and Saris inquires about those tattoos, and she shares with a smirk. She gives the rundown on the mates bond of old, and Saris has words for Fisher untold. Chapter 35. Saris marches to Kingfisher, oh so quick, but she's not here to ride his long yardstick. Kingfisher confesses some half-truths that he's told, from butterflies to oracles and futures foretold. His mother once saw Saris, she drew her on the page, but the first time he saw her, it filled him with rage at himself for opening up his heart. He couldn't help but bring her here, even if it wasn't that smart. He tells her the truth of the mate bond they're in, but the Godbinding tragedies, they will win. Fisher is mad. He plans on dying, which makes Saris storm off crying. Chapter 36. The plan is simple. They just need a witch. Have her and Tylena work on Lane. That's What's the sitch? But Kingfisher knows something. A clan near the gap. Who's telling Carrion he needs to stay back? A few hours later, the one witch is here. Her name is Ishabal, and I can hear the readers cheer! Chapter 37. It's not time for talking. We'll save that for last. There's too much fun to be had, and trust me, no one's half-mast. Fisher takes Saris from Ballard to have one night alone, and he's done up the place enough to make Saris moan. In the middle of their deed, he seals the bond. Things are different now that their love has spawned. Tomorrow they'll go to get Everlane to mend, but we're about to see why Kingfisher is a martyr to his friends.
All right, it is time to don our pendants and step through the Quicksilver to explore key insights, character analysis, lore, foreshadowing theories, and oh, so much more. We're still in cozy fantasy Ballard, the small village that Fisher took Saris to for a little bit of hope. After their departure because Saris heard Anarath more, Fisher takes her through the streets of Ballard instead of returning through the Shadow Gate to Kalish. Soon enough, they enter a cobblestone square, and in the center is a fountain with a statue of a female with long flowing hair, a heart-shaped face, and a gentle smile. She looks an awful lot like Everlane. She's holding a stone urn with a steady stream of water that pours at her feet. At the base of her feet is a small brass plaque that reads, Adena of the Seven Towers, Lady of Kalish. Oh my goodness, this is indeed Kingfisher and Everlane's mother. Past the statue of their mother, Fisher unlocks a door and leads Saris into a small 2-bedroom apartment. It's clear no one has been here for a long time, with the dusty air and furniture draped in sheets, pictures on the walls covered. And here is where we piece together that this place used to belong to Fisher's mother. She brought him here as a child, and that's why it's familiar and comfortable for him. One of the bedrooms belonged to Kingfisher's mother and the other to him. His mother was clearly important to the people of Ballard. And I realize I don't think we get confirmation that Fisher's mother is from Ballard, but it makes absolute sense that she is, so I think that we've just made that assumption. And then she would have left to become the Lady of Kalish when she married Fisher's father. And I assume that the urn she holds in the statue is Fisher's father. Oh. I can't, it's a father as an urn. I did do a keyword search, and I can't find any other mentions of Seven Towers in the book or on the map, so I'm going to keep an ear out for that.
Well, and I also want to highlight, because 7, it brings up a number that we're going to be talking more about later, with Tylena saying that 7 is auspicious. So what are the 7 towers if 7's an auspicious number? I'm so curious. I will say we've been seeing some theories recently about Adena also still being alive. I'm really, though, leaning towards her being dead, especially because we hear multiple times about how she died at Bellacon's hand, Kingfisher mentioning how she's dead, all of this stuff. But listen, it wouldn't be the first time we as fantasy fangirls say that a character is dead and then they aren't.
What are you trying to say there, Nicole?
Nothing at all.
I think that if either of Fisher's parents are still alive, it would definitely be his father instead of his mother. I do think that his mother is unfortunately dead.
I agree. I don't see both of them being alive.
I agree.
That feels a little too plot armory.
Yeah. Also, while on the topic of Adena, Malcolm will later say she was a real thorn in his side. I wonder if she, as an oracle, thwarted some of Malcolm's plans. I don't know. There's just so much more to the blood curse and Fisher's family to uncover, and I'm so excited to learn more. If Fisher's mom was not from Ballard, I wonder if she somehow saved the town with her oracle power, saw something and then was able to prevent it from happening. But I do think that this statue is a tribute to the widow of Kalish who used to call Ballard home.
In the middle of the night, sleeping in 2 different rooms, mind you, Saris wakes up to a loud stop from Fisher. He's having a nightmare. Not even having a nightmare. He's living a nightmare. The Quicksilver in his eyes are wild, which we know from Quicksilver Watch from Callie last episode. That means that the Quicksilver is taking over Kingfisher's mind in the moment. Remember, it's not only the Quicksilver talking to him, it's also hallucinations. It's him believing or seeing things that aren't there. It's people talking to him that aren't there. Over and over again, Fisher keeps saying, stop, please stop. And later we know from Saris that she can hear Anarath more, chanting over and over again. So we can assume he's reliving moments in Gilthry.
I will say, though, how often do you think Fisher has these kind of episodes? Because it seems often enough for him to be very familiar with it. And he also will later say that he doesn't sleep anymore.
Well, so that's what I was going to say is, like, because we know he doesn't sleep anymore, I wonder if this is like on the scale of episodes. I wonder if this is a pretty bad one.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming the bad ones, I want to say every other week just because I refuse to believe it's any more recent than that. But like a medium to medium low, medium high, I feel like those are multiple times a week.
Wow, yeah, I agree with you. And so then also I'm wondering, is it because the Quicksilver is taking over, or I almost want to call it like a flare-up of the Quicksilver, and it's trapping him in pain and horror, which is why he's begging it to stop, like we were speculating earlier. And I also have to wonder, he could not sleep while he was in the maze. Did he have these episodes while he was in the maze? Or do these episodes only, I'll say, flare up when he is sleeping? So are these almost like maybe they were compounded because he didn't have these for 110 years and now he's back to having them again and they're way worse than ever before? Or these are even a new thing for him after being in the maze?
I assumed he would have between low to medium, maybe medium high ones in the maze because he is awake here. So we know it's not only triggered by sleep, right? I can see that so vividly where he's just like sorting coins and then like he's hallucinating. So he doesn't know how many coins he's sorting. I'm like, Fisher is fascinating and so tragic. I'm this poor man. No wonder he's kind of an asshole.
Fisher doesn't want Saris to see him like this. He internalizes his pain and does not want to bother others with it, so he pushes them away. We've been seeing this all book already. But Saris, she will not fucking have this. Not when he is obviously in this much pain and he genuinely needs help. Pause real quick, because I just want to celebrate our girl setting the clearest of clear boundaries, so Fisher knows he is never allowed to use the oath on her again. Oh, I was so tired of giving Fisher those automatic L's. I'm so glad that we have moved past this.
Okay, not that I am defending Fisher threatening to use the oath on her. I want to be really clear on that. I am not defending that choice of his because I agree it's always an automatic L, but because she sets a clear boundary, it's not here. And I do want to point out how overstimulating his head must be right now. He is seeing horrors in front of him. He's hearing things that we can't even begin to imagine. And so him just jumping to this automatic threat of like, I need you to leave. Like, I will do whatever it takes to make you leave. There's that black and white thinking again that we know he has. I can see why when someone is extremely overstimulated, this is a very extreme that they jump to really quickly.
Again, you know, I can think of a few examples with my toddlers, but I'm not allowed to use those examples anymore.
I'm not gonna lie, I was totally thinking that when I wrote this part of the outline, and I was like, she's totally gonna give me shit for this.
Already here in Ballard, like we were talking about at the end of last episode, these two have broken down walls with each other that they hadn't experienced earlier. Even after their first bang, bang, baby, bang, they're opening up and letting each other in, even if it's not easy. They're there for each other, whether the other likes it or not. Yet this time is so different. It's a whole new sense of vulnerability Fisher has to express. He is consumed by the Quicksilver during this episode, and he doesn't really have a choice but to be vulnerable. And while Saris's presence might not shorten the 4 hours of torment, having someone right there to hold you, to be there for you, to help you however they can, that is an indescribable feeling of trust and laying yourself bare. It'll, quote, irrevocably alter the dynamic between them. There, I said it, irrevocably.
I knew in my bones that you would pull out this line. I swear to God. I read it and I was like, I'm sure I'm going to see the word irrevocably in this outline.
Irrevocably alter the dynamics. There you go.
Close. That's okay.
At least I don't have to say Corcoran in this episode.
You just said it perfectly.
Oh, good.
I can't fucking believe this right now. Oh my God.
This night together, as horrible as it is for them, as Fisher endures the Quicksilver's torment, it connects these two in a way nothing else has, as Saris literally and metaphorically reaches for Fisher and offers to comfort him. Imagine how many times Fisher has experienced an episode like this, and I bet not one of them has he had someone to care for him like Saris is here. Oh, my Hart. After 4 hours, when the worst of it seems to pass, but Fisher is still struggling, he asks for Saris to distract him, tell him something real about her life before all of this. And just like he's been vulnerable with her, Saris shares her own story. And I don't think she has ever said all of this out loud to anybody. Sure, people know bits of it back in Zelvarin, but this is her laying herself and her story bare.
I love the line that Kingfisher, quote, is immobile and vulnerable in every sense of the word, laid bare. I could be a little vulnerable too. That just like, for people who are really closed off, that line just like sunk deep in my heart and twisted. I love that line. And remember that Saris is constantly playing the game of who can come out on top with this male. And here is her saying that the game doesn't fucking matter right now. I need to be present and I need to be vulnerable with him.
Exactly. So we get Saris's full story here. Saris Fane's father died when she was 2 years old, and her mother was 4 months pregnant with Hayden. A sand dune came down on a trader's outpost on the Glass Flats, and he unfortunately did not make it out. With his income lost, Iris became a sex worker in exchange for mostly food and water. Quick side note here, friends. In earlier episodes, I did use the word prostitute because that is the language that Saris uses here. However, we received feedback from listeners, and I just want to say I apologize if mirroring the word choice in this instance came off insensitive. So her mother's client list was mostly guardians, and 5 days a week she worked at the House of Kala, but she also worked from their home too to make ends meet. Iris didn't want Saris to follow in her footsteps, so when Saris turned 10, she started her apprenticeship with Elroy. Elroy was in love with their mother, but never acted on his feelings. By this time, her mother had already been smuggling weapons into the ward, and Elroy was turning scraps of metal into daggers and small knives for Saris's mother, but it wasn't long before Iris started bringing home swords and shields, much bigger weapons instead. Saris would routinely be woken up in the middle of the night by masked men giving her heavy sacks, and it was Saris's job to run these items from their house to the forge every day, and this went on for years. Over time, Saris was introduced to her mother's rebel friends, who would stay with them for short periods of time, and they taught her how to get into the tunnels, where the water reservoirs were, how to tap into the water tanks and siphon off just enough to not get caught. They taught her how to pick locks, how to climb, how to fight with daggers, and how to throw them. Very well, I might add. Oh my gosh, Nicole, as I was like rereading all of this, I'm like, her mother was definitely a rebel.
I feel like that is canon. I feel like it is canon that her mother is a rebel. It's just a matter of how much of Saris's knowledge of her mother working in the library, how she died, which we'll talk about in a second, how much of that was influenced by rebel activity versus just sheer coinkydinks. Yes. And I think it's very little coinkydinks.
Their mother worked so much, so Saris pretty much raised her brother. If Saris was not at the forge, she was taking care of Hayden. She was cooking for him, keeping the house clean, and when he went to bed, she'd go out and steal whatever she needed. Over time, Iris became angry because she was tired of being treated like crap, and she started refusing guardians as her clients, which led to, one day, 6 years ago, Saris found her mother in the square in front of a guardian she had turned away the previous night. They searched her bags and found 2 knives, and it didn't matter that they were tiny little things, because the punishment for carrying any weapon in the third is death. No trial, no arrests. They just slit her throat in the middle of the square and left her in the heat to die. As is tradition in Zelvarin, Saris, Hayden, and Elroy burned her mother's body and watched over it until her mother's pyre was ash and cinder. When Saris returned to their home, it was boarded up and quarantined.
Raise your hand if this timeline does not seem like a coincidence. Like, oh my God. Not only, first and foremost, her mother getting caught, I think that there is a very specific reason that Saris was not there when her mother got caught and disarmed and thrown to the ground and was about to be killed. Like,
wait,
I feel like something happened with like rebel activity or they found out something in regards to her being a rebel or having more information than Saris ever could have imagined. And that's why they killed her, and they just used the knives as one of the excuses.
Soon enough, the entire third ward was quarantined because it was said that there was a contamination. As Saris pointed out to Heron early in the book, there was no actual contamination in the third ward. I think we're both of the belief that Saris's mother's death made them completely lock the ward down. For one, she did have weapons, so they cut the ward off as a way to squish out reasons that there might be weapons. And number 2, they were absolutely terrified of the rebels, and her mother having those weapons meant that there were rebels in and around the place. Yeah,
yes,
exactly.
Yes. While there are still parts of the story that Saris does not share, like Hayden's anger at their mother's death because he learned all about what she did, and he was teased for it. He was bullied for it. And as a result, how Hayden started acting out and how Saris was left to pick up the pieces. But for Saris, even opening up the parts that she did is such a huge deal. This whole deep dive, we have been talking and calling out Saris's pessimism. And this sharing of the story is a pivotal change for her character arc, not only because we get a glimpse into why it was so hard in Zelvarin, thus leading to the pessimism that she has, but we can also see why she's so hardened to any and all in the outside world. After this moment with Kingfisher, her pessimism wildly goes down, especially when it comes to him. They are having a moment where their walls, both of their walls, are down together after being stuck in situations that force them individually to build them up. I am just really proud of them.
I love this part of books where the walls start coming down and they have these really sweet, sentimental moments where they start bonding. And this is my favorite part.
The next morning, well, morning-ish, it is still dark outside and Saris wakes up to Fisher's hands gently brushing the underside of her breast. And his little Fisher is not so little and is rock hard behind her.
What a wonderful way to wake up. Like, hello.
See, I'd be like, let me sleep, asshole. One of the 7 million things I love about this scene is how this starts. Last sex scene was, I hate how much I want to fuck you, but better that we fuck it out rather than kill each other. And this scene is so quiet. It's slow. It's vulnerable. And it makes so much sense given what they shared last night and that vulnerability is bleeding into this moment. Haha, bleeds, get it, they're about to bite. Even Kingfisher asking without words has this extra vulnerability to it that Saris notes she can meet his brushing of his hands by turning away, and that would be it. His hand would pull away forever, that door would be closed. But we get a fuck it. Yes! She doesn't want that door to close. So still, without speaking in the dark, his hands start to wander more intensely. But it's not the like, let me grab your neck and finger you at the same time kind of intensity. Every move is slow, deliberate, and my personal favorite, charged. It is tension city here in this scene until finally Saris can't take it anymore. Still without breaking the silence, she begs in her mind, now, now, now. And, quote, as if Fisher could hear it beckoning to him, her thoughts meaning. He grabbed my breasts, moving fast at last.
And remember how we theorized at the end of last episode how Saris hearing Anorath more was when she read Fisher's mind and then he read hers? Well, it's definitely happening here on the page as they are talking all hot and dirty to each other. Like, damn, their sexy talk is...
Okay, if you're not gonna say it, I'm gonna then. Quote, I'll make you beg, little Osha. I'll fill every one of those pretty little holes. I'll fuck you so hard you'll never want another male again. I don't even need funny and flirty and L-wordy. This is not even flirty. This is take me now, sailor style of thinking and words.
That wasn't even the line I was thinking of, but okay. Where was I? Ah, yes. When they are wrapped up in foreplay, Saris and Fisher talk to each other mind to mind. Oh my goodness. Saris at first thinks that she must be imagining his voice within her head because, you know, that this is not a normal thing. But no, they have quite the special ability together now. While they can't read each other's thoughts per se, they can speak directly into each other's minds and communicate telepathically. Pretty cool, huh? Which brings us to the question. Why do they have this ability? It's never outright stated, I don't think, but I strongly assume it's because they are mates. It's not a coincidence that Fisher initiates the waiting period for their mating bond while they are here in Ballard, or that tonight is when all these tattoos for God-binded mates show up.
That's my guess. I don't think this is typical mates, though, but I'm assuming this is the God-bound only type of mates thing. And I think it appeared tonight because they both just let their walls fully down. Not just in this bedroom. They started doing that back at the festivities back in Ballard, and that's why she could hear Anorath more. But it's like the more vulnerable they are, the more they can sense each other until they fully accept the bond. Because when they do fully accept the bond, that is when this strengthens tenfold. She can feel his feelings. She can sense where he is, all of this stuff, versus just speaking to each other mind to mind. But we'll talk about that next episode, because right now we've got another first for these two. After asking several times, Saris's wish of bite play works. Pause. Because here's what we know about biting from Lorith last episode. If a male bites and drinks from someone, it will, quote, make his dick harder than it ever has been in his life. It's a type of euphoria, so to speak, when you're fucking. But, and there's a big but, it's a slippery slope, because if someone bites the other, because I'm not just assuming that it's when the male bites the female, I think it can go both ways. It's really easy to lose oneself in the act. It takes an insane amount of self-control not to keep drinking, which we can assume is why Fisher is like, I can't do it. I shouldn't do it. And why he's so hesitant in the scene. But luckily that hesitation goes out the fucking window. A sharp sting hits Saris's throat and her eyes shoot open. Then a bliss like she's never had overloads her. Overloads both of them, really, considering Kingfisher goes completely still and he's like, don't fucking move. Until he takes the first draw and starts moving again. Just very slowly. And you know what? Euphoric and...
So question, why do you think Saris is so insistent on Fisher biting her? It's not like a nice little suggestion. It is a very aggressive demand. Is it the thrill of the unknown and how she's turned on by his sharp canines and intrigued by what Lorth told her about, you know, how biting is a sex thing? Or do you think it's connected to her own Fae lineage and feeling some kind of pull toward being bitten, like it's in her blood or something like that? Is it just blatant foreshadowing for her becoming a vampire later on? Is it something that she's pulled toward because they are mates and it's naturally a sexy thing for the two of them? On that same note, is there an extra layer of a true mating bond with the blood curse, that there is something reminiscent here? I don't have a full thought with all of that yet, but I'm just kind of throwing spaghetti at the wall here. I'm also curious if Fisher bites Saris while she's a vampire. Is that going to make any difference here? Like, are they still going to be able to have this biting foreplay, so to speak? And why will he be sorry he can't take it back? I think that there's more to it than being taboo, or maybe it's his own negative connotation with it from being in the vampire's clutches for so long.
I am going with D, all of the above to this. I think she's a try anything once kind of girl, and it interested her. I love this idea that there being an extra pull to like them being mates. Something I hadn't really thought of is we know that if a vampire bites a fae, like how Malcolm bites Everlane, so if Saris bites Kingfisher ever, how would that work? Would he be enthralled to her?
She'll be half vampire and half fae.
That's
so
true.
She'll be entirely new.
True.
So I don't think that the rules will apply to her in the same way.
I would hope not, because I want them to be able to go both ways with this. You know? I think they'd like that. As for why Kingfisher pulls away so much, I feel like for him and for a lot of fae, I feel like there is this like overwhelming shame when it comes to having these canines, when it comes to biting someone and drinking from them, because they used to do that by the millions for humans specifically. So I do think that there's this element of, oh God, we can't ever do that. But he got caught up in the moment and it works, because let's just say after that biting, it doesn't really last much longer. They are both utterly ruined and then fall asleep right after without uttering a word. I love that in this scene, there's no dialogue. Like, yes, there's like mind-to-mind dialogue, but I think the only word Saris says out loud is fuck, and it's in all caps with an exclamation point.
The next morning, all over the back of Saris's hands and fingers and even working up her arms is a plethora of tattoos. Yes, last night they appeared on her. Note this was before they banged. As she ran her fingers along his shoulders when she was holding him, the ink from Fisher's skin climbed onto Saris's fingers and formed the designs. The ink still is staying on him. It's not like a transfer of tattoos. It's just new tattoos for her. Stacks of small runes run up each of Saris's fingers and script winds around her wrists and forearms. But Saris isn't able to figure out what it says. The design on the back of her left hand is simple-ish. It's made up of fine lines that twist together, forming a shape that resembles a flower.
So in my notes, I have in all caps, what kind of flower is this? My plant watch brain wants to know. But then I wondered, because in Kingfisher's bonus chapter, The Gate, when he sees Saris across the way when he's with Bal and Mithin, and she's talking to Zareth in a different timeline, he smells lilies on the wind. So I wonder if it's lilies.
That would be really interesting. Oh my goodness. Then, there's the design on Saris's right hand, which is much larger. The tattoo covers her whole hand and the lines are bolder than the ones on her left hand. These designs are twisting around each other in a variety of knots and make it really hard to tell them apart. It is many interlocking runes woven one on top of the other. One of the runes is not black like the others, but rather a dark iridescent blue-green that flashes metallically in the light. As I searched the book for other rune tattoos, Fisher does have one from the base of his skull to his collarbone that is complex with interlocking fine lines, loops, and curls. It's not the same by any means, but it is notably similar, so I just wanted to point that out there.
So I want to point out the metallicness and how it's a blue-green color. I wonder if it's blue-green because of the mix of their two eye colors. Kingfisher has green, she has blue eyes. Since especially because that is their Godbinding tattoo. So it's like the color of both their eyes.
Ooh, I love that idea. Thanks to Fisher, we know some of the meanings. I don't know if I should be thanking Fisher at all for this. He's extremely vague. He is certainly careful with how he chooses his words. He's unable to lie to Saris, but he's also not ready to tell her the truth of these tattoos' power and what they mean for the two of them. While he's inspecting her left hand, he reads the script that chains her wrist, and he explains that this flower-like design means blessed one.
So I wonder if this is blessed one because blessed by the gods. Like, we know Zareth, when she came into the Tree of Fate, he was like, you. So
Yep.
I wonder if the blessed one is because he's looking out for her a little. I don't know if it's looking out for her, but he's keeping an extra eye on her, basically. It means like closer connection to the gods. There we go.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then the runes on her fingers mean different things. According to Fisher, quote, a lot of them are connected. Light, dark, silver, steel, earth, air, fire, water, that kind of thing. Alchemist stuff.
Hold on, because we can assume that these are all alchemist powers of hers. But some of these are different from what Malcolm will say later next episode. So, because we get light and dark here, does that mean she can control light, dark? Can she control all silver, all steel? We hear earth, fire, water, and air in both Malcolm and Kingfisher's statements here. So, assuming, something like earth, like quartz, she can definitely control, like she's controlling the Quicksilver, or I'll say speak to. Honestly, I'm surprised that Callie told us we've seen 10% of Saris's powers. This feels like 1%. But the fact that he says darkness, like, are we going to see a shadow mommy?
Well, so I think of it more as the balance in every single realm that we'll be talking a lot more about in chapter 44. How every single realm has balance of light and dark, good and evil,
Fire,
all of those
water.
sorts, exactly, fire
Yeah.
and water and whatnot. And so I think that this could also be a representation that Saris is a balance across realms.
Here we go again.
But then about that right hand of hers with the larger runes, he says he can't give her a definite answer yet. We do also learn from Fisher that there is magic in all of these tattoos, beyond them magically appearing on her, obviously. Oh my gosh, this isn't even the first time that we'll be talking about tattoos this episode. I am just so excited to learn more about these tattoos because we just have a tiny little bit so far.
One of my favorite things about this world is the uniqueness behind tattoos. How they move. They're like darkness and shadows moving on someone's skin. Like, it's just so fascinating. I can't wait to learn more about these in Brimstone.
But Saris is a little freaked out by these tattoos that she did not choose to have on her body. And so it's like, okay, fine, Saris, you don't want the tattoos? Poof! Fisher makes them vanish. What he is not saying here is that he is invoking the waiting period for their mating bond, which can be initiated once marks appear. They appeared late last night. So now they have a month to each decide whether to accept or reject their mating bond. And if Saris does not want her tattoos to come back, which means to accept the bond, then nothing will happen and she'll essentially reject the bond as I understand it. But of course, Fisher doesn't mention any of that. And he only mentions the part that Saris has a month to decide whether she wants to accept her tattoos. Ha! Nice, interesting word choice there, Fisher, saying accept her tattoos instead of wanting her tattoos. No, she would have to accept their mating bond. Later, we will find out that Fisher wants to make himself reject the bond to save Saris, to protect her well-being because he is dying and it wouldn't be fair for her to bind herself to him. Fisher is especially thinking this after seeing the God bindings appear. Remember how they represent tragic love stories and legends. He doesn't want that to be their story, so he doesn't want to let it get that far. And at the same time, with Fisher believing it's best he reject the bond, He does leave an opening for Saris to accept the bond, just by making it seem like it's the tattoos that she would be accepting and wanting. What he's not telling her is the mate meaning of the tattoos, and that these runes are unheard of to be on someone. Mates like this are not supposed to exist anymore. Much more on that shortly in this episode. Fisher just won't be able to bring himself to reject the bond, and there's a piece of him that hopes Saris will want these tattoos and therefore accept him eventually in this waiting period.
Fairly, Saris wants to know about Kingfisher's tattoos, especially because his haven't gone anywhere. The ones we know about so far are the big wolf on his chest, which we could assume is for the Lupoproelia. We also know about the rune on the back of his neck that goes down to his collarbone, but nothing else really about what that means except for what Lexi shared earlier. Here, he shares about the rune on his left hand that means vengeance. We will be hearing the word vengeance quite a few times in this stretch of chapters alone. At the Darn, when Everlane shows up, Saris mentions how Kingfisher is vengeance in that moment. And I really don't think that's the last time we'll see him like this. I feel like it will keep coming up time and time again for the series, for Fisher to be literally vengeance incarnate.
Well, and then when we get to the God chapter, I'm going to keep a close eye on anything that can tie back into Fisher's tattoos, especially with him being the God of Chaos's champion, in case there's any tattoo clues in that chapter.
Well, and in Kingfisher's version of that chapter from the gate, because there's some mention of birds.
Well, and then the first thing that she sees when she enters the Corcoran is a bird.
Fuck, this is so cool! The next rune we get from Kingfisher today is Justice. Another one I guarantee you we will keep seeing. And then we have the largest one, Sacrifice. Oh, Fisher. We know that this is because he had to or will have to sacrifice much of himself. I don't think it's an or, I think it's an and. And this has me worried because we can assume that these runes are prophecies of some kind. Some of them may have already come true, but will come true again. I feel like it's clear that they're not one and done, though. I feel like they are consistent themes for Fisher to keep coming back to: justice, vengeance, and sacrifice, which makes me really scared for Fisher and his story arc.
Let's go back to talking about the birds, though. Saris brings up a good point about the bird tattoo she has from the last time they fucked. I'm still a little bit confused about what that one does mean in relation to these tattoos that she has. We speculated that her bird tattoo that is still on her chest is of a kingfisher bird, but that's not part of her mating tattoo with him because those would also disappear here for the waiting period. So does that mean that that tattoo is separate from the rest?
I'll go ahead and tell you that I added an entire section for our interview with Callie before Brimstone about tattoos, because this feels like going into next book, having a baseline of here's what we need to know about tattoos feels really important.
For instance, I do wonder if they get these tattoos directly from the gods?
I don't know, because the Lupoproelia tattoo feels very, I chose this because this is... I agree. Well, I don't know, because the god of chaos, with Kingfisher being his champion, could be you are the champion and this is how you're going to fulfill it through the wolf and the Lupoproelia.
Okay, so vacation in this wonderful, quaint village of Ballard is, unfortunately for me, over. Back to the war camp and back to the forge. And back to the forge to keep experimenting with the Quicksilver and relics. There's still a war going on after all. And per usual, Saris's methods for trying to get the Quicksilver to bind is not working, as she continues attempting to mix it with different substances, thinking like a human, as we've said, and not knowing how to tap into the magical elements to bind the Quicksilver.
I love how she mentions the Quicksilver mocking her because A, I love sentient magic. It's my freaking favorite. And B, do you think it's literally being like, oh, foolish alchemist, if only you knew, you could just ask us. Mwahaha.
Kind of, yes.
Yeah, I think so.
Luckily, we have a carrion, though. He makes a groundbreaking suggestion. If Saris asks the Quicksilver to turn between solid and liquid, wouldn't it make sense for her to also ask the Quicksilver to bind with the relics? Or do anything? I love how Saris is like, oh, no. Please do not let Carrion have the solution. But it's like as soon as he suggests she talk to the Quicksilver, instead of try to mix it with different substances, she's like, oh, shit. That's probably what it is, huh? Again, gotta think more like magic. Striking a deal with metal is not the first conclusion a human would come up with, even with her experience of asking the Quicksilver to wake and sleep. I'm not gonna hold that against her by any means. But how interesting that Carrion does think this way. First of all, he's already known for thinking out of the box and being very clever. He's a logistics guy after all. But also, he is Fae. And while I definitely don't think that he had this idea all along, I do think that he's able to suggest this because his mind thinks differently, understanding more of what is possible.
Knock, knock, Quicksilver. Are you there? And the answer is yes. Hi. The Quicksilver has given Saris inklings as to where it is when she's trying to find it, or it screamed Anarath Moor in her mind. But this is the first time that she is having a full-blown conversation with the creepy, stubborn metal, and dear gods, it is loud.
It's like when she has the intention of speaking with the Quicksilver, it's automatically much louder.
Yes.
Because before, when she was around these shards of the God Sword that had Quicksilver in it, Saris could only hear whispers when she really, really focused. However, now the Quicksilver is loud and eager for her approach, knowing that she is coming specifically for it.
Yes, exactly. It's like when she's having a conversation with it, all the voices are talking in unison, or I'll even say almost unison. Again, shouts to this audiobook. It's so flippin' good how they do this. And I keep thinking about that theory from Brooke a few episodes ago, where those voices are people of the realms on the tree that have fallen into the Quicksilver due to Zareth's interference. And the more I'm reading this book, the more I'm like, I might be willing to die on this hill that those are the voices.
Well, also, I was rereading that chapter, and I am realizing more and more that the Quicksilver is extremely connected to the gods.
Yes.
It is like the bridge between the gods and these realms.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, I don't feel like the Quicksilver voices are the gods, though, because I know that there is that theory that's pretty popular where it's saying that is the gods, but just the way that they talk feels too submissive. Submissive might not be the right word.
It's not exactly the gods, but it is. We'll talk about this a lot more in episode 6, but yeah. I do think that the Quicksilver is a representation of the gods. Again, I keep going back to like it's like a bridge between the two worlds.
Yeah.
But
that's why I feel like it's all the people who have died in Quicksilver talking over one another, but they've all been lost to the Quicksilver, like Heron. Back to this conversation, this whispers of conversation, because it looks like the Quicksilver shards really don't want to be removed from the stone. Why? Because they don't give a shit if Danya is pissed.
Me either.
I was going to say neither do a lot of people. They are not owned by anyone. This sounds very godlike. The Quicksilver pays no heed to those fae and humans. Okay, Taryn. But when Saris asks what does concern the Quicksilver, it responds with, quote, "Music, give us music and we will obey." Quicksilver, a goer of the opera. Saris pushes a little bit further, bartering with it. If the Quicksilver allows Saris to reforge it, she will have someone sing a song just for the Quicksilver. But the Quicksilver doesn't just want a song. It wants a song from start to finish for us to keep.
I wonder what to keep could mean.
I wonder too. Only then does the Quicksilver agree to be forged into a mighty blade. But Saris pushes even further, pressing her luck, asking if the Quicksilver will bestow the blade with magic that the bearer can wield. I love that she's going big or going home. It's wonderful. Go, Saris. To which the Quicksilver responds with, quote, "A gift revoked. You ask for what cannot be given." Saris wonders if this is because it is not within the Quicksilver's power to give, but the Quicksilver quickly shuts that down with, quote, "All is within, but it is undeserved. We decided long ago." What? We decided long ago.
This goes right back to the Quicksilver's role with the gods as well as with these god swords. The magic of the god swords slowly faded with the god's departure.
Yes.
But the timestamps of when the last of the god swords, beside Nimmerel, had magic was 1,000 years ago. The Quicksilver stilled 1,000 years ago. Could there be a stronger connection between the god sword's magic and the Quicksilver? Yes, I'm saying absolutely yes there. And I want us to keep this in mind for when we'll analyze chapter 44, because there is so much in there about the Quicksilver connected to the gods.
Okay, so do you think that god swords are now going to start coming back? Because we only know of 3 of them right now that I can think of off the top of my head. We know of Nimmerel, Avisith, and Solace.
Yes.
I wonder if we're going to see more god swords in Brimstone.
Oh, I think definitely. Yeah.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Okay, question. If Finran is alive, how do you think he's going to feel that his god sword's gone?
It's for a worthy person.
I think it'll really depend on if Finran is like just like a very heroic fall on his sword, so to speak, kind of guy, or if he is more flawed and complicated than that. If he's leaning more towards the latter, I don't see him being totally cool with it, but I don't know, maybe. Okay, so there's this whole we decided long ago moment, but I also wonder if it's because of what they said earlier, where it's like, the person must be deserving of this sword. And I'm assuming that also means deserving of a god sword. So I wonder if Nimmerel never lost its magic because the Quicksilver, the gods, deemed Kingfisher worthy of keeping god sword magic, which is why Solace probably miraculously wakes up, which we're going to talk about later, and works for Saris too. First of all, she's blessed one. So I think that the Quicksilver also was like, you're worthy. When asked how it could be possible to decide all the potential, the bearers, and if it's deserving or not, the Quicksilver states that all warriors are the same. They only wish to kill, but it's willing to bear witness to the blood of the one who would carry them. And if they are honorable, the Quicksilver will consider allowing the old magics to flow through it. Oh!
Can I just say, go Lorth,
Yes!
an honorable warrior whose priority is to protect his people. I also wonder why the Quicksilver thinks this, and whether this is a new perspective it has had since alchemists last spoke to Quicksilver. Again, going to chapter 44, the tree with the universe is starting to die.
Yeah.
And so I wonder if this is closely related to that as well, where people evolved and were not worthy. And that is partly why all of this is dying. And so the magic is not coming to life because the universe is dying.
As Saris thanks the Quicksilver, it tells her, quote, "Do not thank us too soon. The die is not cast, Saris Fane. First, you must restore us and bring us a song worthy of its glory." First, I love the phrase, "the die is not cast." Like that, I don't know what it is about that phrase. I just think it's so catchy. I think it's a catchy little phrase.
We'll have to use that when we play D&D.
The die is not cast.
All right, Quicksilver, challenge accepted. Over the next 15 hours, Saris forges the sword.
Like a badass!
After heating, shaping, and flattening the pieces of Danya's sword, and the metal is starting to take the shape of a blade, Saris grabs a hammer and starts pounding away. Then she heats it, folds it, and repeats the process over 1,000 times, making this multi-layered steel. It takes hours and hours. By the time night rolls around, Saris's arms are heavy and her muscles are screaming, but she doesn't stop yet. Even when she thinks that the blade is tampered sufficiently and she can be done, something deep down inside tells her to do it again one more time. This is the first time in Saris's life that she has had free reign of a forge with enough metal to make a sword she has been dreaming of for over a decade. She studied the art of weapon making as best she could back in Selvarin, but they were working with literally scraps of metal. Metal was not allowed to be in the vicinity, so they were working with whatever they could. And here she has a full sword that she can finally create. She sketched for years. She did her research in the library, and now it is her time to shine, to pour herself into what she is an expert in. This is Saris's opportunity to prove to herself, to the Quicksilver, to these Fae, that she is as good at metalwork as she knows she can be. And so she perseveres all night, only pausing to take the wolf's head that Lorth carved to show Lorth how to make a mold of it. Because yes, Lorth is a talented carver, and at Saris's request, he carved a wolf's head for this sword pommel.
Tree watch. Lorith carves the wolf's head out of a yew tree. What does yew symbolize? In Celtic mythology, yew trees symbolize death and rebirth. Perfect for reforging a sword, and especially perfect for Lorith, who almost died and was brought back to life via Kingfisher.
When Saris is finally done hammering the blade, Lorith and Kingfisher help her cast the steel for the wolf's head hilt, and with it, Saris binds the blade to its hilt and crossguard. At this point, Saris has put so much of herself into this blade. She's put every ounce of energy she has. She's been working on it for so long that she nearly collapses when she's done. She's so tired, but damn girl, well worth all that effort. driven by sheer determination toward the end. The final product is a blade with a wave pattern across the steel from how she folded it so many times. Saris engraved the center of the blade with the words, quote, "By righteous hands, deliverance of the unrighteous dead." I am so curious where she came up with these words that hopefully will bode well for the weapon and its warrior and badly for those at its edge. Did she come up with this saying by herself, or do these words mean something in the books she read back in Selvarin on metalwork? That's kind of what I'm thinking, and it's like a saying that stuck with her there. Along with the wolf's head on its pommel, the hilt is decorated with trailing vines that wind around both the hilt and the guard. It is a weapon of beauty, and damn, it is sharp. Lorith even cuts himself and sheds a little blood, as he says, almost by just looking at it. How very interesting.
Again, I'm pointing out how important blood is in this series. It keeps coming up of the importance of blood. Ah!
And it is at this extremely well-timed moment that the Quicksilver requests a song it was promised that it can keep. The weapon has been forged, and now the Quicksilver requests the worthy song to go with it. So, with the backdrop of the aurora lighting up the sky for the first time in 1,000 years, Lorith, unprompted by Saris or the Quicksilver, but I think his heart knows deep down this is his moment with this godsword, he begins to sing.
He sings a song and tells the story of Kingfisher and his Lupoproelia, of how they scaled the mountain with a horde of 5,000 feeders as the mighty drake Om-Nom-Shakrai circled overhead. Yes, we are used to drakes in fantasy being a type of dragon that are four-legged and wingless. But much like Tolkien, Callie has decided that drake equals flying dragon, and we listen to flying dragons. Now we know from the Kingfisher bonus chapter, The Gate, that Om-Nom-Shakrai was bound to protect the city of Agen. But when Malcolm offered Om-Nom-Nom-Nom-Nom the hoard and treasures of everyone inside, and as well as the feasts of the flesh, Om-Nom, I'm just only going to call it Om-Nom, turned on Agen and allowed for the feeders to attack as well as it attacking the city as well. But when the drake opened its mouth, it wasn't just normal old fire that shot out of it. It was molten lava and brimstone. I was listening to The Gates Part 1 and 2 this morning. The amount of times that brimstone is mentioned is near comical. It's fascinating. When the guards saw the attack coming, they abandoned their posts, so it was up to the Lupoproelia to gather the townsfolk, bring them inside, and close the iron gates that were open for a festival. Specifically, Fisher closing the gate, despite the iron trying to kill him. I love the moment in the bonus chapter when Kingfisher is dying. I mean, he's literally closing the gates and falling apart, and Lorith, Morel, and Danya all come up behind him and help him close the gates, not by touching the gate, because they can't touch the iron, by pushing him and telling him, and Lorith says, "I've seen you strain harder trying to take a shit." Also in the Gates bonus chapters, Fisher is suddenly taken to have a nice little chat with the gods Baal and Mithrin. We're going to be talking a lot more about this part of the Gate in episode 6, but it is here where Baal and Mithrin give Fisher a glittering black sword. Then he's tossed back into battle. Kingfisher is dropped back into battle, though, just in time for the horde and to crash in on the Lupoproelia, taking Morel's life. Note, because I have talked about Folly, who was thrown into blackness, we never see him die. Morel, however, is completely charred by Om-Nom's fire and then eaten in half. So we can say with major certainty that she is dead. Lexi! This death fills Fisher in a rage. Him and Morel were dancing around each other for a really long time. I don't know if it's confirmed that she loved him, but she had deep, deep feelings for him. And I think he loved her more as a sister, but there was definitely some romantic chemistry between them as well. But when Morel is it causes Fisher to attack the drake, ending up in Om-Nom's mouth. What an inception that is, to protect the people of Agen. And it is there where he drives Nimmerel into the dragon's jaw, killing the beast and saving the city. If you have not read this bonus chapter, this is your reminder that please go read them. They are so good. They're available for free on Callie's website. They're also available as an audiobook done by Stella Bloom and Anthony Palmini. It is so flipping good.
When the last of Laura's beautiful song comes to a heart-aching, bittersweet end, the Quicksilver declares it is decided. Shout out to anybody who gets that deep cut reference
What
there.
is that deep cut reference?
It's from the League. It is decided.
Oh, okay. Got it. That's why I don't get it.
And Fisher and Lorth can hear the Quicksilver say this too, that it has made a decision. Fisher can hear it because Quicksilver is within him, and Lorth can hear it because the Quicksilver has claimed him as its wielder instead of Danya, who the reforged sword was supposed to be returned to. Lorth was the first to bleed on the blade. It was his song that the Quicksilver gets to keep, which yes, keep it does. No one but Saris will remember the Ballad of Adena because it is wiped from their memories. This is what the Quicksilver meant when it said it wanted to keep the song. Wow, this is definitely something that's gotta come back into the story as Saris continues making bargains with Quicksilver. She might be the only one to remember quite a few things. But most importantly, the Quicksilver agrees to allow this sword to channel magic. Lorth's blood has been judged worthy, so the Quicksilver will grant magic for the first time in over 8,000 years, once Lorth names it. This god sword shall be called Avisith, the unsung song, Redemption's Dawn. The unsung song is so poetic because the song was sung for the sword to be what it is, but it is not remembered, so it seems like it is unsung. I love it.
And I love also that redemption, it can mean rebirth in its own way, and especially with it being wielded by Lorth and the yew tree symbolism. Like, oh my god, it's so good!
Yes, and how the sword is reforged too. It has been rebirthed anew as well. I love it! Right as Lorth names his sword, a blue flame ripples down the sword's blade and sears runes into the metal alongside the script Saris wrote. I assume these runes are representative of the angel's breath magic, or is it too much of a stretch to suggest there's some kind of prophecy in the runes?
I like both. Both.
This might be a stretch, but I'm still on the lookout for anything blue as it relates to magic and the gods. Remember back at the very beginning of the book how there was a blue rim around the sun. I wonder if blue flames rippling out of this with this reintroduction of magic, I wonder if this is a coincidence. But we're not done, because this is a magic sword, damn it! A brilliant white light of energy erupts from Avisith, shooting straight up into the sky. Like where the gods are, perhaps? The ground beneath them quakes. It's like magic is back in a way this realm hasn't felt in so long. Avisith's magic is angel's breath. That's what the bright light of energy is. We'll see it in action shortly, but the way that I understand angel's breath is raw energy in the form of brilliant light that can make its target burst into flame. But I have a feeling there's going to be a lot more to it as well that we will see later on. Zooming out a little, let's consider why a god sword has new magic in it for the first time in over 1,000 years. We're starting to see a pattern of old, ancient, powerful magic return in that same time span. Like Saris is the first known alchemist in centuries and the most powerful one ever recorded. The gods left a long time ago, and with them, the magic faded from the god swords. True mates are also a thing of the past. God-bound mates don't exist anymore. All of this is until Saris' arrival. She is the key to this return of magic. I think partly because she is connected to magic so much herself. Shoot, even the aurora sky that's thought to be a blessing shows up for the first time in 1,000 years as she is making this magic sword. It's like the gods are watching her, giving her their blessing. I also can't help but wonder if the Quicksilver is excited to have an alchemist who they can talk to in their midst again. It wants to be found in a sense, you know?
Yes, I completely agree. Speaking of Saris talking to the Quicksilver, after a much needed bath, a very tired Saris goes to sleep only to be woken up a few hours later, and a thought pops into her head. She has just created a god sword, major air quotes, simply by asking the Quicksilver to forge anew. She's a pickpocket from Zilvarin, and she has made an Alchemiran sword. Who's to say what else she can do with this power and what else she can ask of the Quicksilver? Like maybe the Quicksilver that's stuck in Kingfisher's head. She's now seen an episode of Fishers. She might not know how bad it is necessarily, but she knows it is bad. I mean, she barely touches into his mind and hears Anarath more over and over again and wonders if this is what he hears every waking hour of the day. And she's fallen for him to the point that she doesn't want to go back to Zilvarin anymore. She wants to stay and help him and his people. And why not try with any and all powers that she has at her disposal to save this male? Also, they're at war. Who knows how many opportunities she'll have like this? So strike while the iron's hot, so to speak. And then she reaches out.
The Quicksilver says that it knows who Saris is. She is the dawn. She's the moon. She is the sky. She is oxygen in our lungs. The moon, you say? Yes, because Fisher considers Saris to be moonlight. She is his sole reason for living. Nicole, how are you not on Moonwatch this deep
Honestly,
dive?
I thought about it in like episode 3 and I was like, oh, I don't know, maybe. And now I'm really beating myself up for not.
It's okay,
doing
I will
Moonwatch.
carry the Moonwatch for us this time. When Saris suggests a deal with the Quicksilver, they tell her that no, they cannot leave Kingfisher. They are him. He is them. They bound themselves to this weapon forged hundreds of years ago. If they leave him, quote, all of us will die, insinuating this all of us is the Quicksilver and Fisher. So Fisher is in a lose-lose situation. He cannot part from the Quicksilver and live. And the longer it is bound to him, the closer he is to death.
Well, so note that they call him one weapon, or them one weapon. I can't help but think about when Zareth calls Kingfisher his champion, and it's almost like Fisher is the champion, but he is the weapon that the champion wields, is him and the Quicksilver together.
And yes, then once when Fisher dies, they all do as dying things do. Quote, we evolve, we change, we transcend. The Quicksilver continues and explains that centuries ago, when Fisher was young, just a boy, he entered the Quicksilver pool and should not have survived it. But Fisher was strong and the universe had a greater purpose for him. So the Quicksilver let him live so he could fulfill that purpose, and the Quicksilver bound to him so he might survive. Hold up, though, because let's jump to what Zareth, god of chaos, will say to Saris in chapter 44. Quote, I orchestrated events so that he, Fisher, would be brought here as a young male. His mother had just died, and his disposition was not very polite. He made an enemy of my family. He was only allowed to live because I demanded it. I'd spent a great deal of time studying the various outcomes and paths of this universe once you and Kingfisher met, and while I never found a balance that meant good prevailed, there were pathways that led to uncertainty. This sounds like the Quicksilver binding to Kingfisher was Zareth saying, okay, let's let him live because he has a greater purpose.
Yes.
That is exactly why I think that the Quicksilver is a bridge between these realms and where they are in the Kokorin.
Well, oh my God. And then also in the Gate chapter, when Kingfisher starts bleeding, he starts bleeding silver. And that's when he's portaled basically into the conversation with Bal and Mythen. I think you're so right. Oh my God.
Yeah. Even going a little bit further, what the Quicksilver is telling us here actually does conflict with what we know about traveling through Quicksilver without a relic, where the Quicksilver seeps into you and you might not survive it. The Quicksilver even implicates that Fisher agreed to this fate of the Quicksilver binding to him, making Saris ask it, why would he have struck a bargain that would eventually cost him his mind? Yes, Saris, I wonder this too. The grand halls of the universe ringing with his purpose. That sounds very much like an environment with the gods, the god of chaos intervention, like what we were just saying. I think this is also a big reason, or just one of the reasons, that Fisher has a tattoo for sacrifice. He accepted his fate. He made a bargain with Zareth. He sacrificed his sanity and ultimately his life for this greater purpose. I can't help but wonder if vengeance and justice are also connected to this purpose. Like, even to eliminate Bellacon, that feels very simple. You know, Saris has got to be evolved, being his fated mate and the most powerful alchemist on all of that, with, you know, the fate of the universe relying on them.
Well, and keep going back to Zareth calling Fisher champion. I feel like that's way more loaded than just killing Bellacon, which I feel like Bellacon would just be like a prick in Zareth's side. I think that this is
boss, but not the final boss.
Definitely not the final. I think the final boss is whatever's killing the tree.
Yeah.
But whatever that is, if it's someone controlling it, or if it's the metal, or if it's some kind of alchemy intervention, I have no idea.
Or the other gods.
Oh dear, are they gonna have to kill a god? That's a tall order.
But no more time to dwell on the fact that Fisher is inevitably dying. We've got another battle interruption. There are about 1,000 feeders at the river, which is not a crazy amount, but it is still definitely to be taken very seriously, and it's all hands on deck, including an insistent Saris. Fisher's first priority is to keep her safe, but our girl draws a line in the sand. If he uses the oath and makes her stay out of battle, she will stand by her word from the other night in Ballard. She will never speak to him again, and whatever this is between them, it's over. Now's the moment of truth. Will Fisher agree to let her do what she wants and trust her judgment? Or will he force her to be safe and lose her in the process? Thank goodness these two have grown and are in a real partnership now. Saris does have to promise she will stay by Fisher, and if he tells her to run, she'll run during the battle. But this is so great how this is mutual trust between the two of them with her going into this battle. And another big moment between them. Quote, "This was the kind of male I wanted to be with." Saris thinks of him as he holds weight to her word and their trust in one another.
One of my favorite moments in this book, this moment right here. Like, we're very used to younger 20s relationships, right? In these books where sometimes they can act very immature. And yes, we have called out every single immature moment that both of these two have been doing. But this is one of those moments where I'm like, this is a partnership, like you were saying. God, it's so good. With the promise between the two of them, all Saris needs is a weapon. And Fisher has just the one. Grabbing the same bundle of fabric that he brought from the Winter Palace to Callie, he draws out Solace, his father's sword. The one that 1,000 years ago stilled the Quicksilver. A god sword that should, emphasis on should, be dormant. More on that in a moment, though. This brings me to a question. Do you think that Kingfisher always intended to give this sword to Saris? Or do you think that this is something he's been cooking up more recently? We know that Fisher believes Finran to be dead. We definitely don't think that, but for all Fisher knows, this sword is unclaimed. I feel like he's giving it to her, yes, as a symbol for being a warrior and fighting alongside with him. I definitely think that's a huge part of this. And yes, also because it lived in Zelvarin for so long, and it feels very fitting for a Zelvarin native to have it. But mostly, I do think that this is his way of giving Saris a gift of his father's. It's like having his father and this powerful stories the sword has been the main character in watch over the woman he loves in battle, and thus keeps her safe.
I think he also recognizes that Saris and this sword are inexplicably linked. He found them together. It was the sword that she used to wake the Quicksilver. It's part of her story that started all of this. One of my favorite lines of the book is when Rin says, quote, "And if you should find souls sundered from flesh, order a drink from us at the first tavern you come across in the afterlife. We'll settle the tab when we get there." I know it's a bit morbid, but considering they're all heading into battle, what a lovely way to say, don't worry, we'll see you on the other side. I get chills just every single time I read this part.
Well, and especially knowing that his twin sister is dead. Like, I feel like there's such a comfort for Ren knowing that when he does die, he at least gets to see his twin again.
Yeah.
And I want to know more about Mirelle. I really hope she's not done with the story.
It's raining for this battle at the Darn, and tonight's a little warmer than usual at this war camp, which should mean it's a little easier to break the ice so the feeders can't get across. Our crew is positioned at the narrowest part of the Darn, 50 feet of river between our side in Irin and the vampire side of Sanisroth, where some, but not all, of the feeders are about to attempt to cross this section. At this narrow section is where the current is strongest beneath the ice, so it's the most dangerous and it's the thinnest ice. But on the flip side, it's also the shortest distance for the vampires to cross. The good news, at least for today's battle, is that Malcolm does not seem to be at this vampire crossing attempt, so at least he has not made an appearance today.
The hammers come down to the ice with a boom. Fisher pushes out his dark smoke, hovering at the edge of the ice, ready to strike. Sound from the east, and the first wave of vampires are attempting to cross the Darn, but the icebreakers successfully shatter their section of the ice before the feeders can make it.
Due to the rules of war, the Fae cannot attack the enemy unless they breach their border, which is marked as a halfway point in the middle of the river. So at this point right now, because the feeders are still on their side of the river, our side is not able to use their magic to target the feeders quite yet. And besides, even if they could attack, Fae magic would not work on Sanisrothian soil. Fae magic needs light and life to survive, and across the river is nothing but death, darkness, and decay. So they need to wait to be able to use their magic until the feeders cross the halfway point of the river.
Which I have a lot of questions as to how that's going to work for Saris next book, if she's able to use her alchemy magic while she's in Sanisroth, because she's the queen, and also because she's something entirely new. I obviously doubt that Lorith and Kingfisher and all of them will be able to use their magic, but I think Saris will be the exception.
I think she's going to bring it back to life. She has that ability. That was really much the vibes that I got from Malcolm with how she would be able to heal him. So I think she will be able to heal the realm.
The vampires across from Saris and the crew are at the narrow point of the Darn, like we mentioned earlier, and know that this is their only chance to attempt to cross. But like the first wave, the ice split under them and drags them under the water. Goodbye, vampires. Into the water they go. Well, most of them get pulled under the water, and a few extra light feeders don't crack the ice and do start to make their way across. The second the first feeder makes it across the halfway point, Fisher and Ren are both able to unleash their magic. Remember those rules of warfare. Ren launches a ball of blue-white light into the sky at the same time that Fisher throws out a wave of ink-black wind. Ren's light orbs come crashing down on the river, exploding it into a sphere of light, and smashes the ice from bank to bank, causing the vampires on the ice to plummet into the rushing waters below. This is so cool. Huzzah! But it's never that easy. Through the yells and shouts of celebration, also cries of breach, breach, breach break through. Along the icy shores, feeders are crawling out of the river.
What? This does not happen. Even Rymphus is like, this should not be possible. This has never happened, as far as we all understand, for the centuries that they've been at war here.
Well, because the rules, or at least the rules that they were going off of were, once they broke the ice, the feeders fell into the water, and then they were as good as dead. They can't die because what is already dead cannot die again. But this is not just the feeders who recently fell into the river that crawl out. It's hundreds more that have previously fallen in and were presumed, again, that feeder version of dead. So in my headcanon, Malcolm actually has been making them think this entire time that once the vampires go into the water, they are, again, as good as dead. But he's just been biding his time for this extra takeover, this extra push, because this right here, I feel like, is him controlling them coming back to life in so many words.
Animation, yeah.
And then coming to attack. It's like once he figured out, oh, there's enough pieces on the board right now, especially with Everlane being in his clutches. He wants the alchemist, which we'll talk about more in a second. This is his way of saying now is the time to play this card.
That's so crazy.
Fisher takes off to help the front line while Ren and Saris stand and hold their ground as more and more feeders crawl out of the riverbank. I can see this so vividly, and all I can picture is the girl from The Ring, like crawling out of the TV, but it's like crawling out of the water. Blech! I've never seen that movie, and yet I can picture it.
Can I just say, I think I might choose Rymphus as my battle buddy. He seems like a great warrior to fight alongside with, just like with the right amount of grit, special powers, humor, badassery, motivational speech.
I'm laughing, but honestly, I agree completely. I feel like it would either be Ren or Lorith. Like, both are such great options. When Ren tells Saris to ready herself, she hears a voice excitedly saying, quote, "And us too, and us." Oh, hi, Solace, long dormant godsword. It's awake, it's alive, it's listening and talking to Saris. This sword should not be awake. And what is happening?
I'm just gotta point out again, Solace has a crescent moon pommel.
Oh my God.
Who do we associate with the moon? Saris! Nicole, Moonwatch!
I'm disappointed in myself. I understand.
I'm waving my hands in the air and saying something is here.
But especially with Kingfisher's earlier declaration where he's like, she is moonlight. And it's the opposition of Carrion's sunlight.
And she was supposed to be born in Evelia. Anyway, there's such a nice little nod that Saris does not belong in Sylvarin because it doesn't have a moon. And it's not cold or wet or any of that.
I feel like there's several layers deeper than that. But yes, I agree.
Yes. I also want to bring up the significance of the name Solace. Solace means to comfort during a time of misfortune. And I really love how that's this sword's name. It's like the companion in battle when you need it most. Solace is a great battle buddy here, everybody. But dang, this godsword has been pulled to Saris since the Hall of Mirrors. And now, yes, the Quicksilver within it is awake and talking to her. Does this mean the sword has claimed her? Or is this simply an alchemist thing? I'm leaning toward alchemy, except for what happens as Saris wields Solace here in just a moment.
See, I am 100% leaning towards this is the sword saying, claim me. Like, I claim you.
Right here in this moment is when Solace claims her, or that she will eventually claim the sword.
I'm going to say right here in this moment, because I think it's a given
Bet.
that event. Okay. Okay, so here's the bet. At the Battle of the Darn, Solace claims Saris. Nicole says yes. Lexi says no. Oh, there's another bet. I'm so excited for our printable sheet.
I know, right?
Fighting side by side with Ren, Saris raises Solace and plunges it straight into an oncoming vampire's mouth. When it drops to the ground and continues to come after her, she strikes again, severing its head. But she only has seconds before the next one comes after her. Again and again, she does this dance, and Solace hums in her hands, sending waves of energy up her arms and into her shoulders with every hit she lands. Oh my god! Between her and Ren, they find a rhythm here. He wounds them, she finishes them. And when a blanket of smoke covers the Darn, shoving back most of the vampires, hooray! Another feeder is headed Saris's way. And oh no, it's coming to get her. But, quote, time slowed down and the strangest thing happened. Her heart rate dips. A sense of peace washes over her. She's filled with an acceptance and understanding. And as this next vampire runs straight for her, she sees him running in slow motion, even though she knows he's moving really fast. And she can see what next moves he does before he does it. She sees him dropping to the ground. She sees him coming after her, and she easily takes his head off before it makes the first move. Hold on. Why are we not all collectively screaming about this? Did Saris just see the future? How did this happen? Is this part of her powers? Is this Solace? Is she an oracle? Can Solace slow time down? And if so, what does this mean for Finran? I am freaking out here.
I read this for the deep dive, and I also freaked out because I was like, how did I miss this before?
Heart is racing.
So here's my theory. It seems that each sword has a power, like Laura's God Sword has the power of Angel's Breath. So what if this is Solace's power, slowing down time or foreseeing the immediate future, and that is what Solace's God Sword gift is? Saris feels a sense of peace washing over her, acceptance and understanding, like the sword is giving her solace while in battle.
Oh my god!
Ren is like, for those of you who have read Mistborn, this power really reminds me of one of the metal burning powers too. So like that's all I can envision here. But back to this moment, because Ren is like, what the fuck was that? So he definitely noticed this move that Saris made with Solace, and his eyes are all wide. It does not look like he has seen this before. Or maybe he recognizes the power that Solace has, and he saw Saris wield it, which made him go, ho, ho, ho!
That's what I'm thinking.
Or maybe he didn't realize the power itself, but he's like, oh shit, she is using magic with this God Sword. It could even be an entirely new type of magic that she's able to channel with this God Sword. I love how there is just like no boundaries of possibilities with all this.
Oh my god, I'm so happy. I love this so much.
Now, there is another possibility here, and that is that Saris can wield any god sword that isn't corrupted like Nimmerel and channel its magic. But I really love the idea of Solace becoming hers. I don't think that she is claiming it here in this moment because I already made that bet against that.
Never mind. I'm not gonna fight you on it because I'm just gonna let myself sit back and win this bet.
Because if she is claiming it, then that makes me think that Finran would have to be dead. I'm not sure how God Sword ownership works. Last little note here that is separate from Nicole and I just absolutely freaking out here. I love how proud Fisher is of Saris when Ren says that she's kicking ass and wielding his father's sword almost as well as his father did. Just oh, maybe even Solace recognizes Saris as part of Fisher's fate and it gravitates toward her.
Maybe.
Yeah.
The possibilities are truly endless. I'm just so happy. Between Kingfisher and Nimmerel swiftly taking out the vampires and Ren holding them back, the fight is definitely over. But they are not the only unstoppable forces out to play right now. A brilliant white light flashes through the air, so bright that night becomes day. We've seen this before. That raw, unfiltered power envelops the Darn like a homing missile, lighting up the vampires one by one as they burst into flames. Oh my god! The Angel's Breath of Avisith has granted Lorith a spider webbing its way across the battlefield, destroying everything it touches and turning Malcolm's army into ash. Lorith! Oh my, Lorith of the Darn, my boy! Oh my god!
I get goosebumps every time I read this part about how this is the first time in 1,000 years that a god sword has granted a Yevelian, or maybe even anyone, magic to defend their people. And Fisher and the others howling like wolves, cheering Lorith's name. Oh my gosh, Nicole, this is going to be such a great moment when this is recreated in film. We haven't been mentioning how this is going to all be a movie.
I literally forgot until this very moment. Oh my god.
This exhilarating emotional moment is cut short, though, because a female screams, "Kingfisher!" from the Sanis Roth side of the river. Uh-oh, this is bad. Flanked by more than 100 vampires is none other than Everlane. No! That's right, friends. It would seem Malcolm has somehow, some way, kidnapped Everlane from the Winter Palace. Side note, we know how. BookCon is working with Malcolm, and the slime ball thinks it's within his right to sacrifice his daughter like this.
Pause, because while Saris is fighting the vampires, she notices one of them looks like it's wearing a apron from the Winter Palace, and it looks like it's fresh blood on that feeder. And I'm like, what the fuck happened at the Winter Palace? Is everyone okay?
That's a very good point. Is my guy Rosarius okay?
I'm still worried about Clemens over here. Clemens is definitely dead. I feel like he's not alive.
What's worse, we come to find out that the Vampire King bit Everlane 12 hours ago, which means Everlane is enthralled to Malcolm and is, quote, his.
Something interesting happens during this exchange, though, because while Kingfisher is casting his voice to Everlane to communicate about Malcolm across the Darn and biting her, she then casts her voice back and speaks about 4 or 5 words that cause the hope to go out of Kingfisher's eyes. I wanted to know what Everlane was saying that made Kingfisher an even sadder boy than he already is. So we reached out to Callie, and here is what she said. In the scene, we don't find out what Everlane is saying, but Kingfisher's devastated reaction obviously confirms his suspicions. In my head, Everlane said, "Yes, brother, I'm his now."
As we'll learn soon, Malcolm's venom is potent beyond imagination. He only needs to bite his victim once to create a thrall and make his victim bound to him. This is different than other vampires who need to bite multiple times in order to enthrall their victims. So this conclusion that Malcolm bit Everlane 12 hours ago means that Everlane is under Malcolm's control at this point. She's enthralled. It's why she has no ability herself to even try to escape. Now, if Malcolm makes Everlane drink from him, then she returns as a vampire, like one of Malcolm's lords. But if Everlane does not drink from Malcolm, who she is enthralled to, then in 3 days she will die and return as a mindless, soulless killing machine feeder. In this moment, there's not much Fisher and co can do. This is Malcolm's way of taunting Fisher to come to Sanis Roth, which is exactly what Fisher wants to do right now to go get his sister. But as Ren points out, Fisher's magic does not work on the other side of the river in that territory. And before he'd be able to cut through 10 of those vampires, they'd kill Lane. This is the reason she's still alive right now, after all, to get Fisher to come to her and bend to Malcolm's will. Fine. From Malcolm's perspective, he lost his most prized possession, which was Fisher, so now he's taking something precious to Fisher, knowing that Fisher will do whatever it takes to try and save his sister or take vengeance against what's happening to her. But no matter what, there are only 2 options for Everlane now that she's been bitten by Malcolm. Number 1, she drinks from him and returns as a vampire still under his control, or number 2, she dies in 3 days and returns as a feeder. Either option, this is bad for Everlane.
We gotta talk about this vampire who's with Everlane, though, because it's our boy, Taladeus. Dressed in black pants and a tailored white shirt with cropped blonde hair, he's definitely younger than Malcolm, but a fraction taller and seems just as dangerous.
Saris can feel his immense power. Not quite as much as Malcolm, but still very strong and cold. This is great foreshadowing to find out that Tal is the second most powerful vampire, which will come in handy later.
Based on only what happens on the page in the stretch of chapters. We know that Tal is one of Malcolm's vampire lords and is very, very high up in that chain. But what I love is that on a reread, and especially after reading the Maze bonus chapter, we know that Taladaeus is someone who grew up with Fisher. They're friends, but not really. They're close. I mean, I don't know how else to describe it.
They're previous friends, but they have a lot of
history.
Bad blood, unintended, between them at this point. But he knows that Tal is a good guy who's having to do a lot of really bad things.
Yes, exactly. I don't know if I'd call Taladaeus on Kingfisher's side, but he is most definitely working against Malcolm, at least in the ways that Tal can. It's not by speaking out against his master, because he literally can't. He's enthralled to Malcolm. But instead, it's by challenging Kingfisher to think like Malcolm. We see this absolutely on display in the Maze bonus chapter, telling him that Malcolm wants to bend Kingfisher to his will. This is back at the Darn now, knowing that if he takes it out on someone close to him, like, I don't know, Malcolm taking it out on Everlane, Kingfisher will come back to Sandusroth with vengeance. There's that word again, vengeance, one of the tattoos on Kingfisher.
On the page here, Tal comes off as liking to play with Fisher, smugly against him. But after finishing this book, where we learn a lot more about Tal, and especially if you read the Maze chapter where he is a prominent character in it, we can read between the lines here. Tal is almost exasperated with Fisher for being surprised about this whole thing going down, because they both know Malcolm and how he loves to torment. Tal is as straightforward as he can be with Fisher, and he shares Malcolm's intentions as plainly as he can, like Nicole was saying there. He's trying to help Fisher look at things from Malcolm's perspective. Though none of this stops Fisher from being extremely pissed off for very fair reasons.
And Quicksilver watch. As the Quicksilver in Kingfisher's eyes is spinning around and around and around so fast that it's forming a solid shining ring around his iris. Not only is he realizing, oh my god, my sister's on the other side of the Darn, but it's also screaming in his head. I can't even imagine what he's hearing or seeing right now.
Well, and he's being told he needs to go to the place where Anrath Moore comes from. The Quicksilver is probably agitated or intrigued to go back to Fisher's own personal hell. Taladaeus lays it out plainly. If Fisher does not meet Malcolm, quote, at the place where the two of them brokered their last deal, which is Gilthry, then Malcolm will make sure Everlane changes and becomes a vampire who is enthralled and spend the rest of eternity on her back for Amatreus' worst. Or Fisher meets Malcolm and gives him what he wants. Saris, the alchemist. Record scratch, this is double bad. Nobody ever mentioned Malcolm wanting Saris before. One of the reasons Fisher pushed Saris away for the entire first half of this book was because he was terrified Malcolm would find out this weakness of Fisher's and use Saris against him. Unfortunately, his mate Saris is also very valuable and powerful, so Malcolm has double the reason for wanting Saris, the most powerful alchemist ever, and Fisher's mate. And as Tal reminds Fisher, whatever Malcolm wants, Malcolm gets. He doesn't care what he has to do to get Saris. He will retrieve her one way or the other, and she will help him with her immense powers to build him an unstoppable army, among many, many other things that she's capable of helping him with. As we'll find out in chapter 43, Malcolm is very intrigued by Saris, who as an alchemist must have slipped through Madra's grasp when she killed off all the alchemists centuries ago because she was afraid of them. And in this realm, Fey blood is so diluted over the centuries that there's less of a whisper of alchemists in the bloodlines now. There that theme is again about all the blood. What exactly this means, I'm not entirely sure, except that alchemists were essentially bred out of existence, at least here in this realm.
And then Zareth in chapter 44 mentions how there's millions of other alchemists, and especially hundreds in her homeworld of Zelvarin. So we'll talk about that a lot more at length in episode 6, but just pointing that out here that even Malcolm doesn't know this.
Yes, exactly. Malcolm says that Saris is a genetic throwback. What a great compliment that is, by the way. She is a genetic throwback with power that is so inconceivable. And Malcolm used to work closely with alchemists, particularly one who discovered the key to his blood gift and was remarkable in so many ways. Again, I know we'll talk about this next episode, but I think Saris is related to this alchemist he is speaking of. There's so much more from this later exchange that I want to get into, but I'm going to hold off until next episode. At the previous encounter with Malcolm here at the Darn, Saris felt his overwhelming power push and pull at her, looking for her weak spots and wanting to force her on her knees in submission. Knowing how much Malcolm wants the alchemist now in this scene, I bet it wasn't just the general presence of Malcolm's power that Saris felt then, but it was him actually prodding her like, ooh, what's this? An alchemist that I want. After all of this goes down and our crew regroups in the war camp, emotions are running high, understandably, with this new development. They need to figure out a strategy to retrieve Everlane from Malcolm and reverse her enthrallment to the Vampire King. Lorith is agitated and on edge, feeling like they need to do something right now. Poor Renfis is so sad about Everlane, and he's just defeated. Fisher has completely zoned out and mentally gone somewhere else. I love how Ren knows this about him, and it's like, oh yeah, he can't hear you. He's just thinking, they are such brothers, and he just knows him so well.
That's so interesting, because I figured Ren knows that Fisher and Saris are mates, and he knows that Fisher's mate just got threatened, and Fisher's just completely taken off the board because of it. And he's like, don't worry about, like, he's off in a different world right now.
Saris understandably wants to play 20 questions and get caught up on the current state of things with Lane. This leads Ren to give the Blood Curse and Vampire Bite 101 download to Saris that you lovely listeners have already heard and will definitely hear plenty more of, but not right now.
As everyone is deciding what to do with Everlane and how to help her, we get a rather interesting bit of info from Lorith. Talking to Fisher, quote, your father studied the blood curse for decades. I bet he made a note about this. How to cleanse a thrall's blood. How to burn away the enchantment between master and thrall before any conversion begins. Add this to the list of things. Why are we not talking about this? Why was Finran researching this? Do we have another Papa holding back info? Papa Finran, what do you know?
The way you just said that made my soul leave my body. Because yes, I highlighted this same passage with a big exclamation mark next to it. But Nicole, you just brought in Papa Finran's research.
Oh my God.
I don't think I've ever loved you so much as I do in this moment. You just know the way to my heart. Okay, I need to refocus here. So I wonder if Finran was studying how to defeat Malcolm and maybe even knew that the Dianthus line was part of the key to that. There's a whole bunch more with the gods that I don't even know if is worth getting into right now, because Zarth will say that he changed events hundreds of years before Saris was born to switch things up so that she would not be born in that realm. What if Finran is associated with the things that got switched up there, and that's partly how he ended up in Zelvarin?
Ow. Oh, God.
Okay, but back to the Dianthus line here and why he would have been researching it. I wonder if this has something to do with why Finran knew that he had to save the bloodline, because the Dianthus line is so important to taking Malcolm off the board, as Karen will do with severely weakening Malcolm. I can't help but think about how Finran's wife was also a powerful oracle, whom Malcolm will specifically say was a thorn in his side. This is all so connected in some way, and I don't know how yet. I also wonder if Finran was more connected to the blood curse and vampires than we currently know. It was Finran's grandfather that took the cure, but as we've pointed out, the timelines are a little bit funky with that. Anyway, don't mind me as I start organizing my puzzle pieces of Papa Finran's research.
I am so happy for you in this moment right now. Oh my God, you got another Papa.
And this one, I'm a lot more inclined to think is actually still alive.
Definitely.
Maybe Callie can confirm or deny one way or the other, like Rebecca did for
No, she will not. But I do think that we're, just the way she phrased a certain answer last week, I feel like we're going to find out about Finran way more in book 2. I could see him being the cliffhanger ending where he walks in or something like that. With the plan to go back to Kalish set, before our crew jumps back into action with research for Everlane and how to save her, first, they must recognize one of their own. For the Lupo Proelia, whenever one of their own, and especially a very powerful alchemist in their midst, stands their own on a battlefield and fights bravely, they are officially a new blooded warrior. Now, I don't know if this means them saying that she's part of the Lupo Proelia, more that she stood with them and they recognize her as a brave warrior in her first fight. And before you're like, is it really the time to do this? Don't worry, because Sarah asked it for you. The response from Fisher is simple. During time times of war, there is no guarantee. They don't know if they'll wake up tomorrow. They don't even know if there's going to be a tomorrow in the first place. So they have to make sure their warriors know that they are worthy and that they are grateful for their courage. The ritual is also simple. Each member of the Lupa Proalia stands in front of Saris, draws a knife over their palm, and touches Saris's heart. I love the moment where Kingfisher, even though the ritual was his idea, gives a little like gruff when Lorith puts his hand between Saris's breasts. It's so funny. After Lorith goes Ren, and I guess Danya opted out, which honestly is not that surprising, because lastly is Kingfisher. And as he presses his palm to her chest, he taps his index and middle finger over her sternum in time with her racing heart. Oh, I love this. And then he goes, quote, "I give you my blood and thanks, Saris Fane." Squee! I'm so happy. Not only does this just make me kick my legs up in the air and squeal, but this is also the first time that Kingfisher has said Saris's name. Not even just her full name. It's even him the first time saying Saris. He's called her human, Oshalith, Osha, little Osha, alchemist. But now he has finally said her name. And we will discuss why that is in our Oracle discussion in just a little bit, because yes, we still have that chapter to talk about, and why this is so meaningful. But right now, I just want to highlight that for Saris, him saying her full name is really fucking weird, which makes me laugh so hard.
This is such a big moment for Fisher. I just love it so much. Like, I know that some people wonder how he is a top tier boyfriend for some people. This kind of thing is why. It is these little moments with him, and it's just like, oh, I love it.
Once they are back in Kalish, the most useful thing that Saris can do is go back to the forge and make relics. Now she knows all she needs to do to make a relic is ask the Quicksilver, so it should be fairly easy. Well, looks like she picked up the one stubborn piece of Quicksilver who swears it doesn't want anything until it asks for a secret. I like secret. The Quicksilver needs the hot gossip. First we had the concert going Quicksilver. Now we have the reality TV watching Quicksilver. And next we'll have the patron at a stand-up comedy show Quicksilver. I love these things. It's so funny. So assuring that if she tells it her secret, she will still remember the secret. And it says, yes, it will. She shares it. Quote, "I don't want to go back to Zilvarin anymore. Not forever, anyway. I want to go home, get Hayden and Elroy, and then bring them back here to Evelia." While it might not be the hot goss that she expected the Quicksilver to want, this is a big deal for Saris to admit. She has spent her whole life protecting Hayden, as we discussed during episode 1. Everything she did was to protect him and try to earn a better life for him and her and Elroy too. This was one of her driving goals for the entire first half of the book. Now, she's not saying fuck them, I don't care anymore. She's saying she wants to bring them here. So question for you, how far into book 2 do you think it will be before Kingfisher and Carrion come back to Evelia, assumably with Hayden and Elroy in tow?
I don't know. It's a thick book. At least 2/3 into it?
Yeah, I agree. I do think it's going to be about 2/3. Because I was going to say halfway, and I was like, oh, that feels too quick. Silver. The Quicksilver accepts the secret, and it looks like they only needed one secret to get them going, because they continue speaking, telling her that she must say, save him, save the gates, save Evelia. The him they're referring to is Kingfisher. But when Saris asks them to elaborate, please, it says, quote, "We are token, key, relic, shield." The relic feels pretty self-explanatory. The shield as well, especially with shielding against the Quicksilver traveling into somebody's body. But what do you think it means by key?
Maybe it's the key to traveling through the Quicksilver, or bit of a bigger jump here is the key to saving the world.
That is quite the jump. Yeah.
Now that it is a relic that can safely get someone through the Quicksilver, maybe it's as simple as that's what it's referring to now.
Sure.
They are the relic, the shield for the person going through, the key to going through the Quicksilver. Though that doesn't seem to have any relation to the whole thing about saving Kingfisher. That was a little out of the blue, right? I'm also very curious about the whole save Kingfisher, save the gates, save Evelia. Save the gates? Like the Quicksilver as gates to other realms?
That's
or
my
gates,
understanding.
Yeah, or it could be gates within this world. Like we know that there is the Ajin Gate. Is it foreshadowing to save Kingfisher for what's about to happen with Malcolm at Gilthry? Or is it save Kingfisher for something that has not happened yet in this book?
I assumed it was save Kingfisher from losing his sanity.
Oh, That maybe too, although that Quicksilver's got to talk to the other Quicksilver because they're not on the same page.
Yeah, that's true.
Moving on from that foreboding riddle, the Quicksilver requests Saris seal the relic with blood. It always comes back to blood, doesn't it? And when she does this, her blood absorbs into the band of the ring instead of rolling off it. The Quicksilver states that it is complete, and Saris can even feel that it's complete now. Yay, Saris has finally figured out how to make a relic. She did it! She's been trying to do this since the Winter Palace. Good job, girl!
Okay, so I have another question, because the Quicksilver asks Saris to seal the relic with her blood, and when she, all that kind of stuff. Does that mean it's Saris's relic now? Kind of like how Avisith is Lorith's sword? Or is it just that the blood is like the little tie of the bow of the present?
I think that's all it is. It was the price that the Quicksilver wanted versus with Lorith's blood for the God Sword. It was intentionally to judge his worth for a magic sword.
That's true. Calling out yet again, though, because that is just another instance where blood seals the deal. Oh my God, this is so important. But when Saris puts on the relic ring, drawn to it by some unknown inkling, she turns invisible. She's transported into the unseen lands, only being able to be seen by the Nazgul, and suddenly she's a crouching creature being chased by her, screaming, "My precious!" Just kidding, but not by a lot. The whole forge goes dark, and an icy wind blows through her. I don't know about this being all the four wind stuff, but I wonder if this is air magic of hers at play.
Okay, I love this idea. Also, how are you on Wind Watch but not Moon Watch?
I shifted my focus to another natural element in the world. There's millions of different voices chanting Adarath more at the top of their lungs, which we know means release us.
Fisher's not even here, though. So this is really baffling that the Quicksilver chants this here and now, separate from Fisher.
Yes, but it's not until Tylena's voice brings her out of whatever is happening here. And it says, quote, "The candles in the forge strengthened, the flames leaping about back of the hearth, licking over the blackened brickwork. Air, fire magic. I will die on the hill that this is what is happening in this scene. But also, what else fucking just happened? Why is she, an alchemist who has touched raw Quicksilver before, have such an odd reaction to putting the relic on where she's literally Frodo in Lord of the Rings for a second? It's like, what just happened?
I have a crack theory.
Oh, please give it to me. I love your crack theories because they actually make so much sense.
I don't know about this one. What if this is her ancestor's relic and that is why there was a weird connection? Actually, no, I think that this is more proof for how powerful and unique she is as an alchemist.
I like how you had less than 15 seconds of an actual crack theory until you were like, no, this is actually much more logical.
Well, so she thinks to herself that she won't be doing that again, but I guarantee you she will, and it'll be for good reason. Like maybe it's a way of her becoming one with the Quicksilver. What if this is a way for her to be able to transport and talk to the gods at the Corcoran?
Nope.
At the Corcoran.
Corcoran.
At the Corcoran.
All I'll say is that this is at the top of my list of questions to ask Callie during our interview with her before Brimstone comes out, because what just happened? I can't believe I didn't catch this until the deep dive. Oh my God.
Speaking of Tylena, Saris notices some very interesting looking tattoos on her hands that look mighty similar to the tattoos that appeared on her own hands very recently and are now hidden. That's very important to remember. For this exchange, Saris's tattoos are hidden. On Tylena, 3 out of the 5 fingers on her left hand bear runes. Then on her right hand, she has 1 rune on her index finger and another on her ring finger. Then, super casually, Tylena accidentally shares the biggest news that Saris has ever gotten in her life. These are mating tattoos. Tylena goes on to say, since real fated mate bonds are extinct, it is now a fake custom for couples to mark their skin on their 5th wedding anniversaries. They design and tattoo the blessings they pray for onto their hands in the hopes that these blessings will manifest. It's tradition to wait until the 5th wedding anniversary to get these marks to make sure that the marriage is not going to fail because, that would be a little awkward. It's advised that these couples wait until they are so sure of each other before binding their skin. But back to that whole extinct fated mate bond thing, because this tradition tradition of marking your skin with your life partner originated from the real deal. Back when true mating bonds existed, the marks showed up on their own. These unions were blessed with marks by the fates. However, the ability to form true mating bonds faded when the gods left Evalia. There's no such thing as true mates anymore. How very interesting indeed for our two main characters. As for the script that wraps around the wrists, Saris asks, hey, what would it mean if someone happened to have those? Like her. Well, it's called a Godbinding and only a thing in storybooks, and it's absolutely not real. So Saris, you're being silly here. Why are you even asking this question? A Godbinding was seen as a blessing from the gods themselves. It is said that only the most important couples in Yevelian history have had them, but many people, like Tylena, thinks it's just a way to embellish the tragedy. Because yes, each story with couples with Godbindings always end in tragedy and heartbreak, where one of them, always in italics, dies. Oh dear, that is all I have to say. Like, holy shit, what a massive info dump we just got. So with all this to say, Saris and Fisher are fated mates, the kind that isn't even supposed to exist anymore. But they also have Godbindings, which is a myth in and of itself and always ends in suffering and death.
I love this twist on mates. Like, I just think that this is so fascinating. Tylena brings up something else that's interesting as she's describing the runes on her hands and that her and her mate picked out. She's being a little judgy about a couple who decided on 7 runes, which is considered a lot, and greedy 7.
So while we don't know exactly how many Saris has, I did go back and look, and she has runes on all of her fingers. So she has at least 5, and I'm willing to bet that there are multiple on each of her fingers there. So she, I'm assuming, has even more than 7.
Tylena mentions how 7 is not only greedy, but it's also an auspicious number. I find this bit of world building so fascinating, especially in a world with 7 gods.
And then in Zelvarin, there were 7 cities that Madra claims rejoiced when she cast out the Fae. Fisher also got stabbed 7 times when he went to get Hayden. 7 out of every 10 females are cleansed in the 3rd ward, another connection to Madra and 7. Adena of the 7 towers, like you mentioned earlier. Can you tell I searched the word 7 in this ebook?
Oh my god!
So we decided to reach out to Callie, asking if she could expand on why 7 is considered auspicious, and here's what she messaged back to us. The number 7 is very important to the people of Yuvelia and Zelvarin for a variety of reasons, one of which being the fact that there are 7 gods. Perhaps readers will learn more about those other reasons in future books. No spoilers here. Oh my goodness, yes. So there's a lot more to the number 7.
I have a feeling we're going to be doing another word search in the ebook of Brimstone for 7.
I love it when this number comes back.
7!
All right, friends. It's chapter 54. I mean, chapter 35. Big reveal time. Understandably freaking out about what Tylena just shared about true mates that don't exist anymore and what these marks mean, especially the Godbindings, let's just say that Saris needs to speak to Fisher like right now. He has a lot of explaining to do as poor Saris tries to even begin to wrap her head around this information she just learned. Remember, she did not even know about mates before this. Mates had not even been on the page yet. This is all new information. Fisher was vague about what the tattoos meant. He certainly did not mention any of this stuff. This is information overload, and more so than ever before, Saris is realizing just how in the dark she's been about her relationship with Fisher.
Well, and it's not only like that information. This is like, whoa, I am part of something bigger. There's something else like guiding my life. Holy crap, this love means so much more to me than I ever possibly could have imagined. But it's also this feeling of not being in control of your own destiny, which would freak anyone out.
Yes, exactly. Backed into a corner, we get Fisher's hesitation to share the whole story. Sorry, dude, you are not off the hook here. But it is a culmination of how he's felt all book. Saris is his weakness. She has been since the moment he laid eyes on her and he called himself pathetic. He struggles to let down this final wall because he does not want Malcolm to know his weakness and to hurt her. And yet, now's the time. He has to tell his mate, who is specifically asking him, knowing the truth now.
Yeah. Let's start with the truth about the O'Shaleth butterfly. Up in the wastelands, up north beyond Ajun Sky, which is where the dragons are from, where the air is so cold it'll freeze in your lungs if you breathe without a mask, no life can survive there for long. But once in every 1,000 years, the wind drops, signaling the coming of the O'Shaleth butterfly. When the news spreads, the bravest fae set out on foot to the valley where the O'Shaleth hatch. When they get there, they find the butterfly's cocoon and they shield them from the warmth with their bodies. The fae give them whatever heat they can for as long as possible, which can take up to 12 hours for the O'Shaleth to break out of their cocoons. But when they do, it's said to be the most beautiful thing a person can experience in their lifetime. They glow blue and pink and silver, and while no one knows why, they have music, a sweet, soft song that's capable of healing, and they dance. The O'Shaleth mate and lay their eggs, and afterward, they fly into the air and dance. Protecting them while they live is considered a rite that so many fae die in order to perform. And that's why O'Shaleth means most sacred in Old Fae. What do you want to bet we're going to see?
I was just going to say, I think that we are absolutely going to see this happen. It appears every 1,000 years. Mm-hmm. And guess who else is here after 1,000 years? Saris. So I think that there's another connection here with her being here, and maybe it'll make them hatch or do their thing.
She can control the wind and slow it down, and then the butterflies can hatch and play.
I love you on your wind watch.
We know from Kingfisher's bonus chapter in the maze that one of the reasons he decided on the name O'Shaleth is because he felt a tug towards Saris. Not a hard yank tug, but more of a light, meaningful tug, like the beating of an O'Shaleth's wings to go through the Quicksilver to Zelvarin, specifically to meet Saris. Little did he know that it was the O'Shaleth-like tug that was actually tugging him towards his mate.
Oh! As Saris hears the truth behind little Osha and Fisher is laying his feelings out for her bear, it's a lot for our girl to take in. She is in disbelief. He tried to make her hate him, and yet this whole time he has been calling her most sacred and keeping all of this bottled in. From his perspective, it's been to save her and protect her from inevitable heartbreak with him or torment from Malcolm. He hasn't called her by her name all book until very recently, and she used to think it was an insult to her. Well, he actually did tell her it was an insult to her, but that's neither here nor there. All names hold power in this realm. The Fae have true names that no one but their mothers know, that they don't share with anyone. So, for instance, Kingfisher, that is not his real name. Renfis, that is not his real name. Everlane, that is not her real name.
Well, and it's noted that in the end of the gate, when Mirelle is talking to Fisher from beyond, she mentions how his mother is like, guard your name with all cost, your true name, guard it. Oh, I want to know what his name is so bad.
I do definitely think we're going to learn it. I also wonder if it is still going to have some kind of connection to a bird.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm willing to make this bet with you because I don't know if he's actually going to tell her in book 2.
I never said he was going to tell her in book 2. I think that at some point in this series, we are going to learn his true name.
Okay, yeah, some point in the series, we're going to learn his true name. But do you think it's going to be in book 2 or book 3? Okay, then I'll make the bet with you that it's book 2. I want more bets, Lexi.
Okay. You think that he is going to tell Saris his true name in book 2?
I think we are going to discover Kingfisher's true name in book 2.
Okay, bet.
Okay, bet.
Then Saris shows up here with only one name, and he couldn't say her name because he was scared of what it would do to him when he said it. It would be acknowledging Saris's very real presence. He would be speaking his mate's true name, and to him, that is a really big deal, even if she does only have one name. So Fisher called her Osha instead, most sacred, an endearment and expression of his truth in his own way since the start. Yet all this time, Saris was led to believe he hated her. She knew deep down he didn't, but it was her instinct all this time to always assume the worst in him, up until quite recently. Yet even thinking that she wants to hate him, she has been pulled to him. And now she knows why. Yes, they do love each other, and they are meant to be together. Like I said, it's a lot for a girl to take in.
But hold your horses there, Saris, because the revelations are not done. Fisher's mother was an oracle, much like Malway, who we talked about in episode 1. And Fisher's mother knew that she was going to die soon, so she wrote about Saris, pages and pages and pages on this girl. She said that when Fisher needed Saris most, she'd come blazing into his life like a meteorite and basically turn his entire world upside down.
Like maybe when he needed her most, like when he was trapped in the maze?
Exactly. I think that's also double meaning. I think there's going to be multiple times when he needs her most. She's mentioned that Saris will shine so brightly that she'll light up hell itself and guide Fisher out of the darkness. Oh, Fisher's mother didn't know what Saris's name would be, just that she would have dark hair and a beautiful smile, and that Fisher would love her with a fierceness despite himself. Oh, as we learned in the Fox the Boots the Dress bonus chapter that we can find for free on Callie's website or on Audible, we also know that his mother had dresses made for Saris.
Insert book reference that I want to make so badly, but it would be a big spoiler. But if you know, you know. Also, I bet that Adena knew Saris's size because she's an oracle.
That is correct.
We've wondered about that information in the past. So here's this.
That's true. I also think she made the style of dresses knowing that maybe Saris was going to end up on the Sanis-Rothian side.
Ooh.
Which that would definitely be something to leave out of your son's book. His mother told Fisher that it felt like she knew Saris, that they were friends, even though 1,000 years stood between them. Considering that Saris was only at the end of the book, I am willing to die on the hill that Mama Fish actually knew a hell of a lot more about Saris that she didn't put in the book. I don't know why, but Mama and Papa Fish are keeping some mighty stuff close to the chest.
Okay, so hold on, because I have this note too, but for a different reason. As Fisher is talking about how his mother wrote him a book, he's having to be so careful with what he can tell Saris here. He stops being able to breathe when he says, I didn't believe her, but then when I was taken, and then he literally can't keep going. We can assume this is taken to Malcolm, because Fisher is bound to not be able to speak about where he was taken. Yet here he's not able to talk about why what his mother wrote in her book had such an impact on him. That's how I'm understanding this text.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if she had this book made for him to comfort him so that he will not face this world's challenges alone. But I think there's a whole lot more to all of this. And I think there might be another bargain that Fisher is unable to speak about that is not the exact same one as with Malcolm that we are led to believe here on the page.
I think you're onto something here. Yes. Okay, so you know how it'll be next episode, but when Carrion offers the book to Saris, he's like, you want to read it? She's like, no, thanks. I think that there's some stuff in there that, like you're saying, Kingfisher isn't talking about. And oh boy. Oh,
because
dear.
he literally can't.
Yeah, because he literally
reason
can't.
or another. Again, there is so much mystery around his mother and how she was a thorn in Malcolm's side. His father, how he was researching the blood curse. An alchemist knowing so much about blood gifts. There's so much to connect the dots, and yet we don't know enough yet to do that yet.
Oh my God, the research, it's back, baby. We even have a book of it. I'm so happy. Anyway, towards the end of this book, Kingfisher's mother drew Saris almost perfectly. The only difference is that in her drawings, Saris has pointed fey ears. But when Kingfisher sees Saris for the first time in the Maze bonus chapter, he's amazed by the fact that she looks almost exactly like his mother drew, except her ears are round. And because of that, she was human. Can you imagine believing your whole life that, like, oh, this woman who's destined to turn my world upside down, she's fey, we'll live just as long together, and then you find out she has rounded ears and that she's human? Like, oh, Fisher, no wonder he's all like, fuck me. But I also want to pull out a moment from that bonus chapter, because he mentions that because she's human, she would never survive her injuries. In fact, even a fae would barely survive the injuries she has. Just pulling that out as maybe another Saris is fae, big fae, hint.
As we'll learn in chapter 44 with Zarth, the god of chaos, Fisher's mother was not wrong. Saris was supposed to be born Fae in the very same realm as Fisher. Oh my god, what if this is why she is like an ice storm and even has a Fae name, because it's like these traces of the way that Saris was supposed to come into this world. You're like, no, she has a Fae name because she is Fae royalty.
I mean, there is like the black hair, like, and how that's supposed to be Evelian Fae royalty. So I could see a world in which that is lingering traces.
What if she was supposed to be the daughter of the Dianthus line? She was supposed to be Carrion's younger sister, and then they had to switch a bunch of things up so that she wouldn't become his sister, so that she would be in a different realm.
And that's why they still smell like siblings.
Yes. Fuck! I am going to die on that hill.
I won't.
She was supposed to be Dianthus, but she's not.
That makes so much sense. Fuck. Honestly,
we still haven't decided what these bets are going to be yet. So
that's true. But here's what I will say. If that is the case, honestly, I don't mind losing, because that is such good storytelling that I can't even be mad. I can't even be mad. I will be a little mad, but I can't be that mad.
So back to this about Saris supposed to having been born Fae in the same realm. Zarth interfered and attempted to sway the fates when he saw how strong a bond Saris and Fisher would have. So that's why he separated them. Hundreds of years before Saris's birth, Zarth shifted the events around her birth and moved these two so far away from each other across time and space. Okay, again, this has me thinking that the timeline is all messed up with Fisher's father's mission to Selvarin because Zarth interfered here. I am going to put a pin in this for episode 6. Oh my gosh, this is just so exciting. Okay, I'm guessing that Fisher's mother began seeing Saris before the god of chaos interfered and moved Saris to a different realm where she would be born human.
All of this is so wonderful and romantic and makes me just want to like scream into my fist and bite it. But there's a big catch, because mates, let alone god-bound mates, isn't exactly all sunshine, rainbows, and OSHA butterflies. Mama Fish never said anything about a mating bond between the two of them. Truth be told, they haven't existed for so long that Fisher himself was like, that's not a possibility. He didn't even think about it.
This feels like a very important detail.
I agree.
Knowing what we do about the god of chaos swaying Fisher and Saris's fate, he knew that they would have this strong bond, but he wanted to separate them. So how does that make them god-bound? They kind of have had the opposite of the blessing of the gods, where they found each other across realms despite the gods' wishes.
Only one god. We don't know about the others.
Right, only one god. Mm-hmm. The other ones don't like Fisher anymore.
Nope.
Because he offended them.
Shocking.
If these two are together, most of the tree, which is like the universe, it'll die. So, again, oh my gosh, I'm going to hold off on my spiraling here until episode 6.
Do you see why we had to put episode 6 as only 2 chapters? We're going line by line through that chapter. Oh my God. But the moment Fisher saw her, he felt a band snap into place and he knew that they were mates. Then he saw the Godbinding tattoos the other night in Ballard and it freaked him the fuck out. From how I understand it, there's like normal mates, like Tylena and her husband. They're married, but they call each other mates instead of husband and wife. Then there's mates, as in true mates, which are rare and haven't been around for a very, very long time. And then there's godbound mates, which are on a whole other level of the mating chart, because they typically mean that the mark that comes with a godbound mate, it comes with also a great cost. One of the mated pair always dies in stories about godbound mates, and Fisher is rightfully so terrified that that'll mean doom for them, even though he technically knows he's going to be the one to die. More on this in a moment. I want to yet again remind, reluctantly, that Fisher was called Death when Saris first met him. I don't like that omen.
Okay, but they're also going to be severed from the tapestry of the universe. So where does that leave them with this?
That sounds like a great conversation for episode 6, Lexi.
Okie dokie.
Back to the godbound tragedy of mates. Because, like I mentioned, one of the mates always dies in the stories. But Kingfisher knows he's going to be the one of the two to die. The Quicksilver in his eye is getting worse. Much worse. He is constantly haunted. He's seeing things, he's hearing things, and soon the pendant around his neck won't be enough to help him. And no, Saris can't just make another relic because the one he wears is special. His mother went to the witches to have them make it for him. Another moment where I bet you she saw the future and she's like, he's gonna need this, please. And the witches warded it with spells. What do you want to bet? This is the freaking Balkadir clan.
May I just point out that Fisher did call Saris a witch last episode, and maybe she actually will be able to spell future relics. And that it was why he was so excited to enter a witch! A witch! A witch! I'm being funny, but also very serious right now.
I know you are, which is my favorite part of this conversation.
Like, obviously, that's not the only reason he was excited to enter her, but he was pleasantly surprised to be like, oh, a witch.
You know, I like to think that if he's having sex with his mate for the first time, he's not like, that's different. Like, that's different magic. Because the Quicksilver in his mind is getting bad, he knows that this is not a life he wants to live once it drives him past the point of sanity. He will not be safe, let alone the others around him will not be safe, what he could do to them. He will be a burden above all, and he refuses to be that. This is Kingfisher after all. Martyr, as much as we love him, Kingfisher, this has been his secret and driving force for the entire book. He's planning to take his own life before he becomes a burden onto others and his family. And like we've been discussing for 4 episodes, this is why he's been pushing Saris away so much. That he knows that this is his fate, and he refuses to fall in love and have her lose him when he loses his mind and then his life.
So he initiated the waiting period when they were in Ballard, giving them 1 month to decide whether to accept or reject the bond. Fisher told himself he would have to reject the bond. So hey, don't worry about it, Saris. She doesn't have to do anything here. Oh my God, Fisher. This is the most guy response ever, by the way.
And especially the black and white thinking. I am a very black and white thinker. Do not get me wrong. Like, sometimes I'm like, yeah, that makes sense, Fisher. This is one of those where I'm like, bro.
He's like, it'll all be rejected. She can go back to Zelvaran. He'll die. She can move on with her life. It's all fine. Don't even worry about it,
This
Saris.
would drive me insane. I would, like...
Well, that's what she thinks here, too.
Yeah.
Naturally, we can imagine how pissed off all this decision-making without her about her own life and her mate has made Saris. She likes to have a say in matters and have control over her own life, as we've been talking about for 4 episodes now. And here Fisher is taking that away from her in a completely different way than he has in the past, but he is still taking that decision away from her. He's had centuries to anticipate Saris's arrival, and he's known for weeks that they are mates. He's got all their awful, difficult decisions figured out. Again, don't worry about it, Saris. I am so livid on her behalf right now. She's furious that Fisher has made life-altering decisions for her without telling her about any of it. And he's, I don't want to say waving it off right now, but he's being
He's
so
thought about
final.
it so much.
Exactly.
That
yes.
it's decided.
Yep.
And that's
It is
just
decided.
That it is decided. I don't get that reference, but I will do it with you. Quicksilver watch, though, because during his and Saris' fight, the silver in his eye has completely overpowered the green, meaning that he's trying to have this really intense conversation with his mate. All the while, who knows what he's seeing via hallucinations or hearing in his mind? I am already not a peach to have a fight with, but a fight, if I'm overstimulated, I would worry for the person in the room with me.
I think your husband and I can both attest to that. Turns out witches are the only ones with powerful enough blood magic to break an enthrallment. And they're the only ones who can keep Malcolm's venom at bay while Tylena would draw it out of Everlane's system. It's probably going to take months to draw out all of the venom from Everlane's system, which is bad because Malcolm's venom is like acid and eats away everything it touches. So not only does our crew need a witch's help, they need a very powerful witch who can keep Lane in status long enough to heal from that catastrophic of damage. But there's a slight problem. You know, only one here. The last of the witches abandoned Yavelia 100 years ago. Not 1,000, everybody, just 100. And no one has seen a member of the Balkadir clan in 200 years. To make matters more urgent, they only have 36 hours before they need to be in Gilthride to have any chance of rescuing Everlane. So they don't really have time right now to look under every rock to find witches who don't want to be found. But there is some good news here, everybody. Fisher knows of some half-witches at Fulton's Gap. Conveniently, this is as far as Fisher can travel by Shadowgate without Belcon sensing the magic and showing up. So, Fisher, Ren, and Danya will go there and see if any of the witches are strong enough and willing to help them, while the rest of the crew stays behind to keep researching how to help Lane when they do get her back.
Well, it's a good thing that Danya didn't make the trip a million times harder. Oh, wait, she did. And you know what I finally get to say?
What do you get to say?
God fucking damn it, Danya. It's back, GMTD. Hours later, with the crew coming back, they have a witch. Everyone meet Ishabal. Get this, her hair is bright red. Her eyes are bright blue. Who else do we know with bright red hair and bright blue eyes? Carrion fucking Dianthus Swift. So, is Ishabal a Dianthus?
Maybe in another timeline.
Oh my god. Swear to fuck. Ishabal is the granddaughter of the Balkadir High Witch Melina. Pause, because yes, we've been talking about these Balkadir witches for forever, and I have a feeling they're going to be really important next book, so let's do a quick TLDR. The Balkadir witches were instrumental in Rurik Dianthus learning a cure for the blood curse. We know that the Balkadir witches live in the northeast section of the continent in a place called the Balkadir Clan Lands. And we know from the Maze bonus chapter, Belicon is sending men up to those very lands despite the Balkadir clan hating Belicon. Why? We don't know. But it makes me very nervous for the High Witch and Ishabal's grandma, because I feel like Belicon is wanting some witches for some magics.
Yes. Well, I keep going back to the blood curse and the cure to it, and how Belicon did kill the family who went to go find the cure.
Yeah. Ishabal herself, though, is a spitfire and a really, really good witch who I have a strong feeling we are also going to get to know more a lot in book 2. Do you think that Ishabal and Lorith had some on-the-page chemistry?
I don't think on the page whatsoever. He's kind of gets a lowercase L for his prejudice against witches.
100%. But this is like an enemies to lovers situation.
That's exactly what I'm thinking. Yep. I definitely do think that there will be something between them, and it'll help him overcome his prejudice against witches.
Good.
But I don't see it on the page here whatsoever yet.
Oh, okay.
Back to theories about the Balkadir clan. What if Saris is going to need their help for all the land and people of Sanisroth?
Ooh,
and it's
I
a
like
way
that.
to help heal the land, because I was mentioning earlier, like, I do think that Saris has that power within her, and maybe she'll need the rest of the witches to help facilitate all of that. I also do think that Ishabal and Saris are going to become friends. Ren describes the witch as the most irritating, foul-mouthed creature he's ever met, and I think that they would definitely get along.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What if she's also able to teach Saris a thing or two about her powers?
And what if Saris is a witch? And then she's able to teach her a thing or two about their powers.
Yes, exactly.
I swear to God.
So, here's the plan for tomorrow. The crew travels to Gilthry. It's not in Sanisroth, so Fisher can use his Shadow Gate to get there. They get Everlane, bring her back, and Ishabal and Tylena begin working their magic on Everlane to break her enthrallment, no longer be controlled by Malcolm, and draw out all the venom his bite inflicted so she will not die and become a feeder.
With the plan to go to Gilthry all ready to roll, the only thing they can do now is rest before this dangerous mission. But for Fisher, he has a bit of other resting in mind for him and Saris. Opening up a shadow gate, the two step back into the apartment in Ballard. Remember, for Kingfisher, Ballard represents hope. Right now, he needs a bit of that. For the Everlane mission, yes, because he's planning on actually going alone and will need every little bit of hope he can get, but also for his love, for his friends, for the war at large. As far as Fisher knows, this is most likely going to be his last night alive, and he wants to spend it with the woman he loves. But it looks like he set the mood. In the apartment are hundreds of candles seeming like they're floating between both the darkness of the apartment and the darkness that Kingfisher is conjuring from his shadow magic. Kingfisher loving doing the deed in the dark. This is him saying, let's shut out the outside world. As Saris thinks, it looks like they're up in the night sky, surrounded by stars. Later, while they're going at it, the tattoos will reappear, and Saris will ask Fisher if one of the reasons he's making it dark is because the markings, and if he doesn't want her to see them. And he admits, yes, good communication, Fisher. But what I love is that he asks, are they scaring you? And she says they don't tonight, and that's all that matters. And I love that bit of vulnerability. And thus begins our second sex scene of this episode. Oh, it's a good time to be alive during Quicksilver. But just like the previous 2 sex scenes before this one, this sex scene serves a new, different purpose. It's not the tension pulled so tight you could cut it with a knife like last one, and it's not the hate bang like it was the one previous to that. It's 2 people who love each other. They're spending the last of their few precious hours together, not knowing if it's going to be their last night together, full stop. Kingfisher thinks it is. There's no biting other than some accidental little nicks of their mouths. There's no choking. It's just the 2 of them, which of course still includes Kingfisher's dirty mouth. Pause though, because during this scene, quote, I stiffened in his arms, letting go of a strangled cry that caused the candle flames to gutter and flare in response. Fire magic! I wonder if the fire is coming more naturally to her, because I've called out many of fire magics. I wonder if it's because in Zilvarin, it was so hot with the suns beating down on her for so long. That's all she knew. So I wonder if for that reason, fire comes easy. Lastly, as Fisher says, quote, tell me that you want this. And she says, I want you. Quote, energy flickered between us like tiny filaments of lightning, dancing all over our skin, connecting us as he drove himself home. I think that this is him accepting the mating bond, which is why the energy changes around them. It's almost like him saying, tell me you want this, is the last little bit that he needed to accept the mating bond. Which, speaking of which, let's talk about these new tattoos of Fisher's.
As he's climaxing, new tattoos bloom across his skin, up the side of his throat, and chained along his collarbone, interlocking and bold. That sounds like a similar description to Saris's tattoos from their last bang session. On Fisher's neck fans out the outstretched wings of a magnificent bird in that same metallic blue and green ink as Saris's layered, complicated rune on her right hand. So can we agree it's no coincidence that Saris has a tattoo of the little bird on her chest from their first time, and Fisher has these wings of a majestic bird? Could these wings represent him finding freedom and newfound peace as he accepts the mating bond? Yes, definitely, although I do think that there is a slightly more literal reason to this. Saris has a bird tattoo. His name is a type of bird, and his mating marks are wings. There is a connection there somehow.
Well, and every time they go into the gods world, they hear birds.
Yes.
And that's also just like another little wink, wink, hint, hint to the Godbinding. While we're talking about some new ink, Saris gets her markings back.
She can feel the prickle of power as the runes return. Her left hand with the flower is buzzing with warmth, and then her right hand with all those complicated runes stacked, it's throbbing with energy. It is so fascinating how her hands with the different magical ink give different feelings. Then the Godbindings made up of fine strands of fire around her wrists, they trail up her arms. So, oh my gosh, I just can visually see all of this.
All of this comes down to a question. Why would he accept the mating bond? The odds were stacked against the 2 of them. She is a human. She'll live for less than a heartbeat compared to him. He knows he's dying. Not to mention he's been working for hundreds and hundreds of pages against this bond because it feels like it was never their choice and it's just setting them up for tragedy. But he did accept it. It's a romance after all. 1, because at the end of the day, he loves Saris, and being connected to her in this way was the most natural decision. And 2, because he is going to die very, very soon, in fact. He knows he will be leaving tomorrow morning and leaving everyone else behind. And this feels like that one last little bit of happiness for the 2 of them to share together. Yes, she will lose him, but she will know just how much she means to him with no walls. What matters is he does not regret this decision for a moment. When he shares it with her, he's so calm and assured in his choice, because should they be together for 80 years or 18 hours, it will be the highest honor of his life, being her mate. Oh, swoon! I do wonder, because after this new ink appears, Saris mentions how the shadows under his eyes are basically gone. Did something with the mating bond, I'll say, like, restore him?
I assume that it's more of a way to describe how he's like inwardly glowing and looks refreshed and youthful, but not in the literal way.
So he had a really good fuck and he's like, I'm set.
He's got his mate. He just accepted the mating bond and he's happy.
Okay, fine. Make it cute.
Let's tap into our inner oracle and turn our full attention to other important foreshadowing moments for the rest of this book, as well as speculations for Book 2, Brimstone.
As Saris is running through the apartment looking for a glass of water for Fisher, she thinks, quote, I wasn't blessed with magic that could simply conjure flames when I needed them. Yet is all I'll say. But we know that one of her runes means fire and the other means brimstone. So there you go. Another one is a crack theory, but it keeps nagging at me. Is Onyx a person or just a very person-like creature? There's a few theories going around that Onyx is Kingfisher's mother reincarnated, and that's why Onyx is so personified. I don't think I'm on board with this, but the amount of times it seems like Onyx knows exactly what's going on, or when Kingfisher's having his episode, Saris mentions how Onyx is like, his eyes are darting back and forth as if trying to tell Saris something about Fisher.
I think that is a fun theory. Because
I think
for
I'm gonna fun theory myself.
Has had a pet, the pet just knows. Like, they just know these kinds of things.
Yeah. I think I will fun theory this as well. Because, like, as much as I think that would be a fun twist, we do know that Onyx is modeled after one of Callie's dogs. So yes. I just feel like she is having so much fun throwing every ounce of personality into Onyx as possible.
Exactly, yes. Fisher tells Saris that his mother was killed too, and that they have that in common. Saris in the moment is confused. After all, she thinks that his mother died in childbirth with Everlane. But we will learn that yes, BookCon did slit his mother's throat and he killed her. Not unlike how Saris's mother's throat was slit too. I love how Saris reflects that Fisher looks like he's being reborn instead of dying when he's coming. Fisher is slowly going mad from the Quicksilver. He's going to die because of it, but she refuses to accept his death. Because of Saris, Fisher is getting a new chance with his life, and he is finding happiness, his reason for living, as Ren will even point out. So it feels so fitting that as he's inside her, so blissfully happy, it's like he's being reborn.
Carrion mentions a 2-bit smuggler back in Zul'Varun named Davy, who owes him 17 chits. Do you think we're going to see Davy next book?
I don't know, because Pencola told us that if she names a character, they are going to be coming back. And Callie names a lot of characters. And so we're all like, oh my God, are they coming back? And I don't know if Callie has the same rules as Pen.
It's honestly fair.
So it's messing with me.
So this book will leave off with Saris still needing to make all of the relics, and she wonders how many bargains she's going to need to strike with them. There's still 14,399 relics that she needs to make. I think she's still going to do it, even though the oath does not bind her in that same way.
Well, so with Malcolm off the board, or at least I'm 99% sure he is.
I'm less of that 99.
Okay, but what does this mean for the war in this realm? Because does the dire need for relics still exist? Or can it be a little more steady paced? Saris will be Fae, so she will have a long life now, and she'll kind of have that different version of timelines. But BookCon is still a problem. But is the need for silver as dire? Because what's the deal with the feeders now? I don't know. I just don't know.
I think the feeders are still going to be a problem. Because, like, I don't think it's a... Yes, it's definitely a monarchy with Malcolm being a king, but I don't feel like the feeders and any other royalty or members of a court or anything like that are just going to bow down and accept Saris full stop.
No, but the war with Yavelia is in so many ways irrelevant now.
True. Unless Malcolm's not dead, because the triumvirate, all 3 have to be killed.
That leaves a lot of questions about Saris. Anyway, we'll talk about that in episode 6.
So remember when I was like, hey, Danya's going to get redeemed and such. And then remember this episode when Danya almost chews off Saris's head for sitting in the spot on Kingfisher's right. And then tells Saris that she should move because she's human. And it's insulting that Kingfisher even lets a human sit at the same table as him. L, Danya, L, and W for Ren, saying that Saris is perfectly right where she is, and how Danya, she's the most powerful alchemist ever documented, so fuck you.
Well, can we also give another L for Danya for fucking up the witch mission? Until Fisher had to go and save it after dropping Danya back off at the war camp. She got put in time out. She needed a timeout. My goodness gracious.
A timeout.
Saris says, quote, fuck the fates. They don't get to decide shit for me. I decide what my future is going to be. Well, the god of chaos will bring up exactly what she just said here when they meet and discuss fates.
It is time to enter Rusarius's library. Don't forget your crackers, where where each episode, Lexi guides us through a world-building topic to help us deepen our understanding of this world and its magic.
Today's Saris' library topic is true mating bonds. It's been a hot topic this episode already, but now let's put it all together and expand on what we know about these supposedly extinct bonds. Mating bonds were possible thousands of years ago, where true mating unions were blessed with marks by the fates. However, when the gods left Euvalia, certain elements of Fae magic either died or faded over time. Another example that we're very familiar with is how this works with god swords. They were slowly cut off from the source of the magic they channeled, and eventually the magic was no longer there whatsoever, making these god swords dormant. The ability to form mating bonds also died out over thousands of years until it disappeared altogether. That is, until Saris and Fisher, who, as we learn in chapter 44, are fated to be together, but it'll result in death and decay. We're not going to worry about that right now, though. So let's focus instead on how does the mating bond work. We know from Kingfisher that the second he saw Saris for the first time, the bond clicked into place. It felt like a thread of energy drawing the pair together, which Saris will recognize and feel later on too. The marks they are blessed with by the fates will show up on their own when the two are in deep connection. This could be vulnerable, like when Saris is holding Fisher through the tough night, or during sexy time when they're intimate like that. These true mate marks can have a variety of meanings. There's runes that show their powers, or for Saris, a bunch of alchemist stuff. Marks can include prophecies of sorts, what their lives are destined for. We still have a lot to learn about the meaning behind these mating marks, but that's what we know right now. Once the bond does click into place and the marks show up, one or both parties can initiate what's called the waiting period. During this time, the marks will disappear and they have 1 month to decide if they want to accept the bond or not. If they do not accept the bond, the marks will remain gone like nothing ever happened, and the two won't be bound to each other. When/if each party accepts the bond, quote, it's easy. You make the decision, you claim the bond claims you, according to Kingfisher. Fisher accepted it while he was inside of Saris and his soul was wrapped around hers. Then Saris will accept it when she acknowledges he is her mate out loud when they are in the maze. Their marks return, I assume for good when this happens, as well as after they accept the bond, they can feel each other's presence, their feelings, their injuries, a whole lot more than they could even before they accepted the bond. We can also assume that speaking into each other's minds is a mating bond thing. We are not positive if that is a god-bound mating bond thing or if that is a, I'll say, regular true mating bond thing. I'm leaning toward god-bound though. To be mated is to be bound to each other, but it's not the same as soul binding as we learned about last episode that Fisher and Lorith have. Very, very different there. Now that we've explained what we know about true mating bonds, let's dig into god-binding. It's this higher level of mating bonds, and god-binding is only believed to be in storybooks, not actually ever real. The god binding is marked by a tattoo of script that wraps around their wrists, and it's considered to be a blessing directly from the gods. They can feel a bright thread of energy drawing them together here. The most important couples in Yevelian history were said to have these god bindings, but because it is so outlandish to consider true, people believe god bindings are just romantic embellishments added to stories to make them more tragic. Plus, they looked impressive in the illuminated books, I'm assuming because of the metallic colors. The lovers in these stories always suffered terribly. Typically, one of them would always die. They are beautiful tales, but they would always end in heartbreak. So god bindings, while yes, technically blessings directly from the gods, they also had a very steep price to them. And again, they are this higher level of true mating bonds, which even from thousands of years ago was not considered to ever even be real because it is just that extinct. And that is the very little that we know so far about mating bonds.
I have a feeling you might need to do a second one on mating bonds next book.
Oh, I already can tell you right now we will.
Let us close out this episode with prancing through the snow with Onyx and discussing our favorite moments from this stretch of chapters.
Speaking of Onyx, it's been a second since we gushed over our furry little fox. So I want to point out how adorable Onyx is when he's snuggling up in bed and then when he needs a bath. I just love when there's a relatable pet like this in the story.
I love everything about the Kingfisher episode when it comes to Saris's and Kingfisher's love story. But most of all, I love that after it's done and she's done sharing her story and Kingfisher has come down from the episode, he has her come snuggle with him. And when she's in the bed and she like kind of, you know, like scoots away, not wanting to intrude on his space, he sighs and then pulls her into him. And it's just, oh! And then similarly, when she's in the bath after making the god sword and her and Kingfisher hold hands and she says that it's the most intimate thing they've done. Also during that scene, Kingfisher Kingfisher says, quote, "I was wrong, you know. You are a good thief." I wanted to know exactly what he was referring to stealing, so I called a Callie, and here's what she said. All right, second option. I'm assuming that he's referring to stealing his heart, and that's what,
I figured that was just a given.
I just want every morsel out of this scene. It makes me so happy. Well, my whole last theory episode about the dust sheets covering the painting on the mantle being a possible painting of Finran and Saris would recognize him was completely squashed because the morning after the episode, Kingfisher has pulled back all the dust sheets and revealed the paintings, the furniture, the other small knickknacks, and nothing clicks in Saris's noggin. But there are stubs of charcoal and paintbrushes, and I'm assuming they were his mother's because she was an artist. Kingfisher only packing throwing knives, a field dressing kit, and a bottle of whiskey for their Ballard vacation makes me laugh so hard. No underwear. None of it.
This is absolutely something an MMC like Fisher would do.
Oh my God, everything about Carrion's commentary when Saris is talking to the Quicksilver shards, especially, quote, "You look constipated."
This is exactly what I was going to say too. Like, that line is just so funny. Then when he and Lorith are playing their dagger throwing game, or rather, Lorith is kind of playing because he hasn't missed yet with 217, 218. 219, and Carrion's just huffing and puffing about him cheating. It's just so flippin' funny. He's like, fuck both of you.
Well, and then later when Lorith is singing, Carrion says, quote, "It's fucking outrageous that he can sing too." And then while we're talking about favorite Carrion lines, quote, "I love a girl with a sharp tongue and a bad attitude. Kind of makes my dick hard." And, of course, him wanting to go with Kingfisher and Danya to get the powerful witch to heal Everlane. And when Kingfisher says, Carrion only wants to come so he can fuck a witch, Carrion says, "I would, just to say that I had done it."
I'd still bring Carrion versus Danya. At least he would be coming with love.
Love is a stretch, but I agree.
He would, like you said, he would be coming with good, pleasurable intentions.
Pleasurable indeed, if Saris' story is to be trusted. I know we already talked about this, but I'm going to take a hard turn. Everything about Renfis's reaction to Everlane being taken is just gut-wrenching. He is so panicked for his girl, and I am so invested in their love story.
We can never forget that Lane has said she has seen him naked.
What is there in that way, though?
I don't think so either,
yeah.
But I still want to know what their relationship status is because they like each other. They like each other. Yeah, they're like dancing around something that can be between them. And they're not like together.
No.
They will be.
You manifest that, Lexi. I don't know.
Will.
No one is safe in this world as far as I'm concerned. Carrion's plant.
His plant is the best thing ever. It's also so funny that he was asleep during the battle, and he's defending himself like, "I'm a heavy sleeper."
I know.
I got my plant.
Another very emotional moment because the entire scene with Kingfisher sitting by Saris' side after their fight. This scene has no dialogue. But it is one of the most impactful, beautiful scenes I have ever read in my life. Yep. This is when Saris goes to sleep on the couch. She wakes up. Kingfisher is there. She goes to leave. He grabs her hand and holds her and just, oh my God. And if I remember correctly, this is one of Callie Hart's favorite scenes from the book too.
I think I remember hearing that too. It really does make me so emotional. You can feel everything on the page in this very short scene. And like you said, there's no dialogue. And honestly, barely anything actually happens. It's just full of little moments with body language. And two people who love each other so deeply and who care so much for each other, even when they have been fighting. And this is a moment where it's like, I'm not happy with you, but checking in. Are you okay, my love? Sort of thing. Oh, I love it. Okay, so this one's a little bit morbid, but it is funny. When Fisher is saying that he will kill himself before he lets the Quicksilver take him completely, Saris asks him if he plans to tell Lorith that he's moved to another realm to live a better life. And his answer is like, yeah, something like that. Fisher! How old are you?
It is time to play the shortest version of is it funny, flirty, or L worthy? And I'm pretty sure all of them are going to be the same. This first one's extremely easy. Kingfisher dressing Saris, telling her that when he imagines her, little Osha, she's very rarely wearing clothes.
I mean, obviously flirty. Honestly, the fact that you don't have 2 entire scenes worth of quotes here is very interesting. Several of my favorites didn't even make it here.
I was looking for L-worthy and I found nothing. So here's the next one. When Danya touches Avisith and it burns her entire hand off her body, Kingfisher says, quote, maybe she'll stop punching people in the face now.
I'm with Saris. She deserves that hand to be gone at that point.
Well, she gets it back. Like, she gets one back from Tylena, who she does not even thank Tylena. Honestly, Danya's going to start raking up the L's just as much as Kingfisher at this point. Quote, and I already know the answer to this one, but I'm saying it anyway. Nobody will ever fuck you the way I'm about to fuck you, Saris Fane. I'm about to introduce you to all 7 gods. When you meet them, don't forget to tell them I'm the one you worship on your knees. This is very reminiscent of another quote.
I'm going to be honest, I like this one even more. I love it.
This one is fucking phenomenal. I'm done. Stick a fork in me. I'm done.
So am I. And friends, that's actually quite the end of today's episode. What perfect timing. Thank you so much for listening to episode 4 of our Quicksilver Deep Dive.
Next Monday, we will be taking a quick break from Quicksilver because of our event schedule, because we will be at Romantasy BookCon. So instead, the episode from Romantasy BookCon, our live show, where we will be going through everything we learned from Rebecca Yarros' interview and theorizing, of course, what she says to us. That is what we will be dropping on Monday.
We'll continue our Quicksilver coverage with episode 5, chapters 38 through 43 on Monday, November 3rd.
Oh my gosh, we're in the home stretch.
Crazy. We love to give the biggest warm welcome to our newest Feral fans. Thank you so much for being here.
Welcome to Julianne, Michelle, Ashley H, Christy S, Ashley V, Capthina, Christina W, and Jordan. Welcome.
Woohoo! And if you're like, hey, I want my name shouted on the podcast and shouted with all this love too, because you all are amazing, join our fan club at fantasyfangirls.com/fan club. The link is also in the show notes.
Thank you, as always, to our master librarian, aka our content researcher, Brooke, and our executive producer, aka sanity manager, aka co-host of Fantasy Fan Fellas, Hayden.
We are very active on social media with weekly trivia, book guides, and so much more. So please be sure to follow us on Instagram and/or TikTok at Fantasy Fangirls Pod. And if you're watching this on YouTube or want to watch on YouTube, pretty please hit that subscribe button to keep following along. And same goes for Fantasy Fan Fellows, to give them a follow at Fantasy Fan Fellows. Get all the latest on the new show where Hayden and Steven dive deep into Mistborn, kicking off November 5th.
While you're pressing buttons, please do not forget to rate and review the podcast. Hit that 5-star button, write a little love note in the review section. It is one of the nicest, best things that you can do, not just for this podcast, but for any podcast that you listen to. And last but not least, friends, share this episode with your fellow Quicksilver readers. If you shared this book because you were like, just get to chapter 35, the Oracle chapter, just get to it, it's so good, this is the perfect episode to send to them. Keep the inside thoughts inside, Lexi. Oh my god. Okay.